And I bought in. Keep that in mind.
Welcome to the Independent Characters, episode 259. This is Carl.
This is Josh.
And this is Brian.
Yeah, it is. Haven't seen Brian around in a long time.
Yeah, we were having a debate
dulcet tones.
When I pulled up, I was like, did they paint their house or is it just been a...
You know, they had to rebuild
we
this
painted it
wall
like
when somebody
4
drove through it.
I remember that.
Has it been that long?
It's been a minute.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us, Brian. We could think of nobody better
Yeah.
or available.
Yeah. Mostly that.
Cover the world eaters with us. This episode is Show Force about world leaders. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, we want to thank Dave Glick and Brian Berman, two of our favorite people.
Patreon supporters.
Amazing.
Thank you guys so much. And everybody else who helps us out there.
Yeah.
Helps the show out in immeasurable ways.
That's right. So, also we're part of the Goonhammer Media Network, so you can find more information there at Goonhammer, which is just a fantastic site. So you should go check out Goonhammer anytime our good friends work there.
Yeah, good resource for all kinds of nerd stuff.
Fantastic stuff. I went there to look at all of the detachments for my Thousand Sons to get at least some guidance, to get a start on what should I be thinking? How does this one fit? And it's super helpful article. So
yeah, I love all the different perspectives they approach things with too. So you get more than just here's how you play this very competitively.
So Brian,
Yes,
you have a podcast.
I do.
Sometimes
You record on the regular.
At least twice a year.
Used to be Splinter Mind.
Yes.
That's long since gone.
Long gone.
Now you're.
Gone. Lost to the Nails. Yeah, which
Wonder
sounds...
why we bought
what a
Brian
fitting
for this.
name.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, though, I don't want people to go there and say, "Wait a minute, all the episodes aren't about the World Eaters." That was just.
It was a 9 Inch Nails fan club.
I love you, Trent.
Doing the music to the new Tron movie, so that'll be pretty badass.
Wow.
Yeah, it will.
Wow.
Okay. But in all seriousness, you have a podcast, Lost to the Nails, which has a very infrequent recording schedule at this point, but you guys are trying to get a little more steady about that. You've brought Sky on, one of our favorite people.
We did. Yeah, we decided to sell out to a...
That's a mistake.
You didn't sell out, you bought in.
Yeah,
He bought it.
well played.
Yeah, so I do the show with Eric, Eric, and then we brought in his schedule, though, is even worse than mine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's an epidemiologist, which apparently means I don't know what he does for his job, but apparently he has to fly everywhere all the time.
Yeah. He looks at bugs.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently. So between our two schedules, it gets a little infrequent. So we brought Sky on, and I got to say this. You listened to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed. In editing, I noticed. This is what a good person Sky is. I didn't swear.
Oh.
And that is...
Wow.
I know.
Brought that out of you.
I don't know what happened.
His wholesome nature took it right out of you.
I'll get the beep button ready.
Okay. Yeah, I think...
Apparently I'm not that wholesome.
But your butcher's nails were twitching the whole time.
yeah, they were singing and itching. So yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about what the show is about. So for the uninitiated, Show of Force is an episode where we pick a faction and we kind of do a real deep dive on it. Now, from the get-go, when Jeff and I started the show, the one thing we weren't going to do was Codex Overviews. Every show under the sun did Codex Overviews. New Codex would come out. Let's go unit by unit. In fact, the ongoing joke was our listeners can read, so we don't need to read you the Codex. And so eventually I came up with this idea, though, I felt like there was space there. And at the beginning of each codex, there used to be this question that was why would you want to collect this army? This was back when you could go get the codex. It wasn't shrink wrapped. You could look in it before at the store. And so I thought, what an interesting question. So what if we did a show about everything around the army and why would you want to collect it? Whether that's how it plays, how it looks, its history, the themes around it, all that stuff. And so that's what we do. We do a deep dive on these. They are, warning. These are also notorious for damaging people's wallets. I don't know that this one has that effect, but it's damaged our wallets even just doing them sometimes. So heads up. Am I missing anything there?
Yeah, no, just the cliff notes is this is the episode where we do a deep dive on all of the everything that makes the army, and listening to this, you'll probably be inspired to start the army.
And that's why we brought in Brian. So
And see, my wallet's safe because I already have the army.
yeah, so you're set.
Right.
And on
My
never say never.
Because Brian
never
already
say
has
never. We'll
this
talk about this in Hobby Progress, and I'll tell you. Corn is not like my favorite of the gods, but we'll talk about that in a minute. My least favorite being Slanesh. So anyway, okay. So let's leap into Elite Choice. Let's just go in order in the notes. I picked Patrick Keith's Terrain from Brutal and Cunning and Blood and Zeal expansions for Kill Team. He posted these a few weeks ago. We got delayed in recording just a little bit because of Brian and yours aforementioned crazy schedules.
Yeah.
But I picked these a while ago because he just did such a great job weathering them. I love the weathering on the Sisters of Battle statue, which is just fantastic.
The verdigris and all the like bronzy stuff on here
It's
is
just
phenomenal.
fantastic. It just looks really, really good, Patrick. And I would happily play on this table. Considering I'm doing some painting of terrain right now, I appreciate what he has done here.
It's a really neat mix of the kits too. You have the Sister of Battle statue, then you have the Sector Mechanicus stuff, but then also the boarding action Space Hulk style,
which is just so much fun to assemble and paint and clear the.
I still haven't finished the second half because the first half was such a chore.
We were scraping the mold lines off of that stuff. Shell and I went and bought a Dremel to do it. And finally, Shell's like, "This is terrible." I'm like, "I know." And then we just put it in the box and it sat there. I have all that Zone Mortalis stuff that I paid Brian to paint. I just use that stuff instead for boarding action at this point.
Yeah.
But
I'll get to it someday.
Yeah. Someday.
It is amazing terrain. It's just the mold lines are a chore.
Yeah, for sure. But Patrick, you knocked out of the park with this project. Great work. What'd you pick, Josh?
Yeah, I went with Boogeyman. And their Nurgle Knight from our Discord here.
So good.
This I thought was a really, really cool take on a knight, and they did a phenomenal job of integrating the organics of Nurgle with a Chaos Knight. It really reminded me of, I'm blanking on the name right now. I want to say it was the Big Brother from BioShock.
Oh, yeah.
Is that Big Brother?
It wasn't called the Big Brother. It was Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Big Daddy from BioShock. Definitely got the Big Daddy BioShock vibes / Jeff Goldblum's The Fly off the face. It's just a really, really cool pose. Again, it's just like the mechanics and organic mixed together with some nice, like subtle blood effects, some kind of gory things on chain blades and just tentacles and pustule pockets, but like some of the joints were covered in a really nice way, showing like musculature. This is all sculpted on here, which again just integrates that kind of mechanical and organic together in a really, really nice way. So that was props there, Boogeyman.
Well, and I can say from experience, this was initially my first choice when I was going through, but I ended up going with what I'm going to go with. But Nurgle is a tricky thing to do, right? Because sometimes people will just get the pus and goopy looking whatever. It's a hard thing to pull off, and this one, especially like the left panel of the thing where you can see like the sort of like magenta and black underneath,
right?
So it's when you put the mileage in, these things really look good, and this is a fantastic knight.
It's got layers.
Yeah, for sure. It's good stuff. Okay, what about you, Brian? What'd you pick?
Speaking of Nurgle, I don't have the real name. It's the username Old Freeload and Ken's multi-purpose biologist Blightspawn.
That's the name.
So I chose this because I am just a huge fan of taking a model. I love with models when you're able to just switch out ahead, change the direction of the model, just with a few bits, go ahead and just make something completely new. And I'm also a big fan of, as we go in later, like my 30K Heresy World Eaters have a lot of parts from the new Berserker kit and those kinds of things. And so mixing the two, this thing, I mean, if I look at it, I have more fingers than there are extra parts on it, but it makes it a completely new model.
Yeah.
And it's really well done, and I love it.
Nice.
All right. Should we just go right into hobby progress and then let's do that, because this show is going to run long as it is. So let's go right into it. So hobby progress. I'll go ahead and go first again. So I have finished printing the Mordheim terrain, all the Mordheim terrain I was going to print, which is quite a bit. It's all there behind you.
It's a good pile.
It's a good pile.
We are set.
I am running behind on painting it. This weekend is our Mordheim weekend.
Yeah.
I still have one more Skaven guy to paint because I neglected. I finally got him.
I still have a whole warband to paint.
Yeah, well, I got a whole bunch of terrain to paint too. I've got the terrain, basic layers down. Shell is helping me out, and we are going through painting all the wood, and then I'm just doing like a real dark wash on everything and calling it, and it'll all blend together very nicely. So yeah, it's coming along.
Yeah, it's looking good.
It'll look great. Yeah. It'll look great. It'll look good enough.
Absolutely. It'll be absolutely playable.
The other thing I did was I've mentioned that I wasn't a huge fan of the Sector robots from the new Thousand Suns stuff. I just feel like they just look really static. And I was just like, this is just not working for me. And people are like, well, I painted it and posed it different. And I'm like, still not working for me. And then I came up with this idea about kit bashing it out of the Calyx robots from the Mechanicum stuff from 30K.
Yep.
These are the shooty robots. They're on 40 millimeter bases, just like the Sekitar robots. But then I got these heads from Puppets War that they look like helmets, but they're like mechanical looking heads. And some are like, birds, like a falcon or a hawk. And some are jackals.
Stargate.
Totally, Egyptian kind of themed.
Right.
Then I did a little bit of kit bashing, added a tabard to each of those.
Nice.
And then, I was talking with Colin about, what weapon do you think I should use for this? He's like, I would cut this off and put a Melta thing there. I'm like, dang it, that's more work. But you're right. So I cut off the barrel of this one weapon and turned them into Melta guns. And I'm like, that looks great.
Sweet.
Looks great. So I'm super happy with the way those are coming out. They'll be unique. They'll be fun, and Colin will paint them.
Oh yeah, bonus.
Are
you going blue or red?
I don't know yet. I have to think about that. I might go red with them, just because they're supposed to be older. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to bounce some ideas around. I still haven't decided on a paint scheme. The problem and the reason I'm having Colin paint them is because I think I said in the previous edition, I had pulled out my rhinos, my 1,000 Suns rhinos, and I'm looking at them, and part of my language, I'm like, oh, damn it. Damn it. And Shell goes, what's wrong? And I go, I can't paint this well.
They're so good.
Colin did such a good job on this army. It's like one of my favorite looking armies. And I'm just like, I'm going to have Colin paint up a few other things. Now, I do have some of the disc riding Zeech guys with the bows, the bowcaster things. And I'm like,
is it the
I can do these
disc rider versions?
Yeah. I'm like, I can do these.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
I looked at what Colin did on those. I'm like, I can do that. I'm good there. So I'll do those, but I'm going to send him some of these robots and a couple other, like a Terminator sorcerer and stuff. So
nice.
Well, and he has that great candied scheme too,
so
right?
Good. Yeah. Oh, that's true.
For the
he already knows what to do with it.
That's true. If I go red.
Yeah.
That's true. I got to think about that too.
If you want to see what it looks like, just look at his stuff.
Yeah, that's very true. So did all that kit bashing. That came out great. I also, not mentioned in my things here, it turns out Exalted Sorcerers for 1,000 Suns, pretty good on foot. Like if you put them with a squad of Rubric Marines, all of a sudden those Rubric Marines all have 4-up invuln saves while they're grouped with them.
Yeah.
Rather than the one on discs. And all mine were attached to discs.
Yeah.
So popped them off the discs. But sometimes I want them on the discs, so I magnetize the discs. I magnetize a couple new bases,
nice.
Those bases up. Now I can swap those guys between those two. Perfect. So we mentioned I started painting the Mordheim terrain. In channeling Adon, who may be coming back soon. Everybody should get their hopes up, but Don is coming back very soon. Next month, he'll probably be recording with us. So.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. I reorganized and dusted my entire army collection here and reorganized it. Now, these are the models closest to me now in these 4 cases.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And these are I can't remember
dude, I like the name tags to go.
I'm getting that. So these, I can't remember the name of these cases, but I'll put a link to them in the show notes. These are from IKEA, but they're not the glass cases. They have glass windows, but they're wood. They have to be attached to a wall. These, I have a lot of these. I think I have like 10, maybe 8 to 10 of these. So these are all now, I call this my chaos cabinet.
Yeah.
Because this is all my chaos stuff, except I got to get rid of this Shadows of Brimstone stuff out of there. But then I went and I was like, this isn't enough. As you just mentioned, I went into Photoshop. I made these labels that all have like images of the type of army on them and say the name of the army so I can have them out and displaying. And I did that for every army, including my Battlefleet Gothic stuff over around the corner and my Adeptus Titanicus stuff.
I'll have to take a perusal around Warhammer World West after we record here.
That's right. So I'm very happy with how the way.
Although I'll say you should drop your name tags under the shelf, so like the backside is taped above, so that you can actually see the models completely there.
That's a pretty good idea too.
Yeah, it is.
I might do that. All right. Anyway, so that took a long time.
I bet.
The one shelf I haven't dusted yet is the one with all the Minotaurs because there's so many.
They can collect dust for a while. That's fine.
I'm not going to be playing them ever. So did all that. Then recently I've also done a bunch of website work for the independent characters where I've set up now this new thing called the Sector blog because I've kind of decided after playing this game with Travis that you're going to hear about in a bit that I kind of wanted to have like an ongoing kind of area of play that when people come over to the house and we're playing games, we can say, hey, it takes place in this sector.
Theater of battle.
Kind of yeah. Oh, I like that. I like that term. As I thought more about it, I was like, well, I started making this sector and I was doing all this Photoshop work. And then I'm like, what if, there's a bunch of them out there. And then I realized, I have all the Fantasy Flight role-playing games.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, why don't I just set it in one of these? Because then if I set it in one of these, if we go play that role-playing game, we can allude to things that have happened and we're kind of tying the whole thing together. Yeah. And that got my juices flowing. I was like, all right, we're going to do it in the Coronis Expanse, which is where Rogue Trader takes place and the CRPG as well, takes place. So I can start to kind of, if I want to run a Rogue Trader game or any of those games, I can set it in the Coronis Expanse and then allude to games that we all play and have it change, even change some of the, facets of the zone. So I thought that's a cool idea.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing with G3 Santa Cruz.
Exactly.
So bringing that back is fantastic.
But I like the idea also of dovetailing into any role-playing game.
Yeah, no, that's a nice touch.
And then, so I did all that, but now what that means too is that if you go to the website at the top, there's a link for Sector blog and you can go there and you'll be able to see kind of I don't want to call it a battle report because it's not quite, but it's kind of an overview of what took place, the perspectives of each of the players, some in-universe perspective of the commanders, and then, a bunch of photos of the game that took place and kind of key moments that happened. So it's kind of like a battle report light, if you will. And that'll get a little bit better, I think, as we progress too. But the first one is up there, which is a game I'll talk about in a little bit. And then, Brian, I hate to tell you this, produces our progress. Chaos Knights are right around the corner, and I may have landed a very good deal on some Chaos Knights.
Oh
stuff,
boy.
To the point where I was like, okay, I've been selling a lot of stuff that I'm not using or I'm never going to get to, and I'm going to fund that. The Chaos Knights are. I don't need a lot. I've already got 2 Chaos Knights. I want to repaint one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you only need 10 more War Dogs, and you've got your
6 War Dogs and.
No, I'm glad you're not going the all War Dog route.
No. I really like the kind of mix of the two. I think it makes for a really thematically.
Right. It's interesting. You're going Chaos Knights. Brian has Chaos Knights. Oh, Cliff is very interested in Chaos Knights.
Nice. We need some Imperial Knight players.
I guess Oprah's over here throwing out Chaos Knights.
You get a Chaos Knight. I've got 1 Imperial Knight.
So that's been my activity, man. We are tomorrow is Juneteenth as we record, and I got to just blast through the rest of the terrain over there and be done with it tomorrow and get my one guy done because this weekend we have more time.
That's right.
So Jody's running that for us. So I'm looking forward to it.
Very excited for it.
Read through all the rules. I'll forget half of them. Like honestly, no, though, if you read it though, and if you've played Warhammer for any amount of time, especially when you had, weapon skill versus weapon skill charts.
Right. Yep.
Like it's all there. It's like, yeah, okay. But there's like a lot of idiosyncrasies where it's like, oh, well, you can't run if you start within 8 inches of somebody. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to forget that rule.
Right.
Most of us will.
But as long as you remember, I can't do it if I'm within something.
There's something going on here. We need to look at.
Yeah, you need to look it up. So you're fine.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Okay. Josh, what have you been up to?
Yeah.
I swear to God, if you say old world.
Nothing.
No, please go. Please go.
I have been so busy traveling for work. Started the new job, which is
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been going really well. It's super busy. Obviously, onboarding with a new thing and doing freelance on the side of that because it's only a part-time position for me. So I've got
for the moment.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
End of year, we'll see if that changes. But very, very pleased. But I've had a ton of travel for the freelance stuff. Like I just got back from Arkansas because I was filming there for 5 days for a freelance film that I'm doing on Monday, and here we are Wednesday.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the old world, because I'm part of the Escalation League, is the only thing that has been fueling my hobby right now, just because my bandwidth has been that tight. So I built 3 Fellbats for the old world for my Vampire Count army. I built the Black Coach. I did get the new Black Coach kit.
You were talking about this before.
And then scaled down part of the front of that because it's drawn by 4 Nightmare Spectral Steeds. And that makes it way too big for the old world size base. So I was able to kind of cut that in half.
So is it now just drawn by 2 or whatever?
It's drawn by 2, which is what the original is drawn by.
Yeah.
Because again, I have the original metal kit, but for some reason, when I actually went and looked at the kit that I had, it had 2 tops to the actual coach itself and no bottom that actually had like where the wheels mount and
good luck contacting Games Workshop about that.
Right.
Yeah, they have good customer service.
Not that good.
30 years later. So anyways, I built the new Black Coach. Very, very happy with that. It's a pretty cool model in that, especially in the old world. I think this is, I'd say the lore is more updated now to make it more of like this ethereal thing that matches how it plays in Age of Sigmar, I assume. But it can go ethereal. So it's either like this physical thing that is, you run it into stuff and gets impact hits because it's a chariot, or it's ethereal and it's just hauling ass and flying through everything. I'm excited to paint this because it'll be kind of a mix of like the solid reality and this very ethereal like mix in there. So can't wait to get to that, which hopefully in the next week or so. I built 3 bat swarms, and this is mostly because I wanted something. They're just kind of a speed bump unit. They're tiny little bats. But I really didn't want to paint more cavalry. So like I can paint 4 more cavalry or I can paint 3 bat swarms. I'm going bat swarms.
Yeah.
Bat swarms. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to fill the gap, but they do have a nice function in the game as well. And then I did, of course, finish printing all of my terrain for Westermunda, which is coming up next month.
Yeah. That is a special event. You're going to Campbell's going to be there.
Campbell, Peter Dolan.
Peter's going to be there. Yeah.
Handful of other listeners as well. Yeah.
I really wish I could go.
This is a Necromunda geekend.
Yeah.
Western theme
Wild West
that
theme.
I'm so excited for.
Wow.
Did you get a cowboy hat?
I have a secret shirt
Okay, good.
that I will reveal.
Nice. And a bolo tie.
Maybe.
And those chaps. Oh, sorry.
Perhaps.
Perhaps. No chaps, just spurs.
Okay.
So I have everything printed out for that now, and I have acquired the paint, so now I can start painting that because I'm going to be shipping a big old suitcase full of desert terrain up there and a bunch of cacti and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Everybody's kind of chipping in with different
I've been watching
parts of the theme.
The stuff people have been doing. It's just amazing.
It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for this. So that's it for now. I am very excited to get back to 40K at some point in the near future, but it probably won't be till August just with what I have, the commitments that I have. I know my Eldar are crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are.
All right. Brian.
Well, I put on here a bunch of BattleTech stuff that nobody cares about. It's a game I avoided for 30 years.
I'm very cautiously avoiding it. Campos is super into BattleTech.
So into it.
I know. I loved it in high school.
Yeah.
I loved it in high school.
I didn't even play it in high school. I avoided it until recently, and then I played it, and I'm like, everything makes sense, and this is, yeah, okay. Yep. I finished my Goremongers.
You know what? I'll play with Campos' stuff. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I have enough painted stuff.
I'll play with Brian's stuff.
There we go.
It's like, I told Brian, I was like, I'll play a game with you.
Well, this was the old world thing I was just telling you about how I'm trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't think I will like the game. Like, it just doesn't. There's a lot of things that don't appeal to me about it. Right. But the thing that does appeal to me about it is all my friends playing it. And I'm like, oh, but I really want to play with my friends. And then Tom said, I'm gonna have multiple armies, so you can just use one of mine. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah, there we go.
I get to scratch the itch and avoid the.
Tom's printing out a whole castle for this,
I know.
Event.
We talked a lot about it. I got to keep quiet about it.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Tom's got secrets.
Oh yeah,
of course he does. That's awesome.
And Tom and I came up with a big event that's going to be super fun. We're going to run later this year.
Nice.
40K wise.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
We need your chaos stuff to join us.
Yeah, I was going to say pro level transition.
Yeah.
I finished a bunch of Goremongers. They're chaos.
You're set.
So they are the people don't know them. They're the World Eaters t-shirt save weirdos with a bionic bloodletter.
Yeah.
This will kind of go into the basing thing. It's a hard thing when you say, okay, I don't want to think about bases. I don't want to make my own. I'm going to just use Games Workshop Sector Mechanicus or whatever the thing is.
Right.
And then a model comes out that's in like 28 millimeters. You're like, okay, no. They have that for boarding actions. And then you get 50 millimeter, Saturnine Terminators that are coming out. And you're like, the Goremongers are on, like, it's kind of like they're stalking and perched sideways on ruins and things. So I had to carve all of that stuff out and make it like industrial, the things they were.
That's not going to work with this Sector Mechanicus. Yeah.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. But then in the end, it's like.
Would it have been less work to rebase the whole army? Just curious.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I know you don't want to.
I don't want to do that. So I finished those, and then that means I only have 5 Khorne Berserkers before my dedicated World Eaters 40K backlog is done.
Nice.
Because then, I still have the Chaos Slush Fund, of like spare Hell Drakes and things like that whenever you just feel
See that banker box behind you on the table? I opened that and I was like, oh my God, I never need to buy a Chaos Space Marine again. There's so much junk in there. I was like, oh, look at all these sprues. I don't know where these all came from.
It's a good problem to have.
It's not the worst.
But other than that, the last couple of days, I finally went through and I don't want to just, like, for those weird sizes, like 50 millimeter or like 100 millimeter for like the big Saturnine Dreadnought that's coming out in Heresy.
Cool looking.
It's so ridiculous.
I think it's cool as hell looking. It's funny because
I haven't even seen the Dreadnought. I've seen the Terminator.
I was in conversation with a couple people who used to work at Games Workshop, and some maybe write still stuff, and like, what the heck is this thing? This isn't lore accurate. Well, they were getting all uppity about it. Then they're like, does look really cool.
For me, looking at those,
we can make exceptions.
Well, aside from plastic HQs, everything that they've released for the Heresy is just, remember that thing in resin?
Yeah.
Now it's in plastic.
Right, yeah.
Or like, here's Mark 6, but it's scaled up right. So these Saturnine are really kind of the first these are new units.
Right. Yeah.
And that's true. Not rehashes of units that were out there, but now in plastic.
Yeah. And to me, they are silly, but Saturnines have always looked silly. And it goes silly far enough to slam into.
It goes around the horn.
It goes around a couple of times.
I got to tell you, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. But I do like the Dreadnought.
I got to check out the Dreadnought. I think the Terminators jumped the shark a bit.
For me.
They are very fitting for what they are. It's not my aesthetic, but I'm happy that some people like them. They're very polarizing.
Yeah. And I think that's
which is fine. Yeah.
Totally. How can you like everything? It's art, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but to get ready for those, what I had to do was I found bases that look like Sector Mechanicum ones, and you just have to basically, every base is about 3 millimeters short once you count in the edges, and just print those and then print them at like a 2.5 millimeter thickness, right? So
Gotcha.
you can just put it on top without it making
gotcha.
like a giant block.
Yeah.
So
Topper pancake.
yeah, so I, basically the last couple of days I just prepped all the bases I'm going to need for that box set, and I'm going to paint those this weekend. And
Then
that's
your
gonna sit
bases
there.
are done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's all you could do right now until that box set comes out.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, there's, I could like hug my children and go outside too.
Listen, let's talk about realistic. Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk about goals that matter.
You know what's funny? You were talking about that topper.
Yeah.
I one of the things I do for my Black Legion is I will I have like perfect sand that like scales perfectly for it, and I'll put little rocks and stuff on it. I was doing that to one of the bases for my venom crawlers, and I made the bases. Okay, everything dried, cool, and then I sprayed everything, and then the top just literally came off like as one. Like a sheet of sand
delaminated.
We're using
glued.
white glue
Just
and
came right
the
off.
sheet perfectly pops
Yeah,
out.
I super glued it back on. It worked fine, but I was like,
have
I've
had
never had that happen before.
I've had that happen when I used to use fine ballast.
Yeah.
Like
Never had that
That's
happen
funny.
before. That was reminding me of you printing the thing thin. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Travis uses green grass. Is that the name?
Gamer
of it?
grass.
Gamer grass.
Yep.
And he uses their like pre-made bases. They are stunningly good. And he's using them for they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Like, not cheap. He's using them for his Space Wolves. I am highly tempted because I bought a bunch of bases for my Sisters of Battle, and as I look at them, I'm like, these are going to take forever to paint up.
Yeah.
Like they're just so detailed, and I'm just like, maybe I should just bite the bullet and do like these pre ones because they have like this temple ones. I'm like, those would look so perfect. And I was talking to Ivan, and Ivan's like, oh yeah, I use those. I'm like, well, if Ivan's using them,
Golden Demon winning, Ivan.
then maybe I'm good enough to use them.
It's good enough for him. It's good enough for
I don't
you,
think he's
but-
entering a Golden Demon on those, but yeah. So, that's awesome, man. That's awesome.
No, it's fun. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've kind of bowed out of the whole Horus Heresy thing at this point, but
Me too.
yeah. All right, let's talk games played real quick. I did play a game. I've talked about this ad nauseum with Travis, which is available to all our patrons. Like we went through a pretty detailed walkthrough of it. It is the first part of a 3-part narrative thing that we're running where it's Space Wolves versus Thousand Suns. Yeah. We ran it at 1,500 points. This is the first one. It was a made up mission where there were 3 objectives on the table. 2 started out in my deployment zone and 1 was in the middle of the table. And it was hard for either of us. I took some lessons from the Maelstrom Mixer. It was hard for either of us to get a total victory here. I had to hold all 3 objectives for 3 rounds in a row, starting in round 2.
Oh yeah.
In order for me to get a major victory. He had to knock me off all 3 in order for him to get a major victory. We both ended up with minor victories at the end of the game. But narratively, like a lot of cool things happened. Travis brought Logan on his sled with the dogs. This is kind of just before the new Codex came out.
Yeah.
And he's switching now to the new Codex. In that battle, like my Chaos Sorcerer was able to destroy Logan finally on his sled. And basically, we just said his relic sled has been destroyed beyond repair. And so now he's going to be on foot going forward.
This time he's angry.
They grabbed him and pulled him off the battlefield. And now he's out the next game because he's healing. And then the game after that, he's coming back, but no sled.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So we thought, that's awesome.
That's cool.
That's a cool transition. It was such a great game. And the whole point of, so what we set up at the beginning of the year, Brian, was Travis was complaining he doesn't get to play a lot of 40K except with Cheyenne, who is be like me playing Justin all the time. Like at a certain point, or Doug Johnson, be like me playing Doug Johnson all the time. It's like, why don't we just call it a win for you and like move on? Like this is ridiculous. Travis is not the competition type of player. And I was like, well, let me introduce you to this other way of playing.
Right.
And we set up at the beginning of the year a game day every quarter. I've talked about this on the show. So we planned them out a year in advance. So the last one was 2 weekends ago. It was my turn to go down there. So Tom and I head down to Southern California. We played, Cheyenne was there, Blake was there, Ed was there, and Travis, of course. And I brought I brought my Forge World city tiles, like the big city tiles.
Oh, wow.
I brought all this terrain. Like they hadn't seen this in play before. And I remember breaking this out for Cities of Death with Justin one time. And Justin was complaining that the guys wouldn't stand on the craters, right? And I'm like, look at what you're playing on. Most people do not play 40K like this.
You're lucky to be complaining.
Get over it.
This
right?
looks like a photo shoot.
It really did. I mean, that was the point. And so the game looked fantastic. Like we had just such a blast. And at the end of it, like I talked to Travis about, so what did you think? And he's like, oh my God, this is the exact way I want to play this game. There's such a difference, right? It wasn't, people kept coming over and going, well, who's winning? We're like, we don't know. We don't know. We won't know till the end.
Won't know till the end, and it doesn't matter.
And even then,
you're both winning.
It doesn't matter. The key moments of this battle, and again, you can go to our sector blog and look at it, but like one of the key moments of the battle was I had to keep him off the center objective. Logan is in this stupid sled with all these wolves with him. Like, oh my God, but I deep strike Scarab Occult Terminators into his backfield. I charge Ragnar Blackmane and a bunch of guys and slaughter them like to a man. Like it was way better than I expected.
Yeah.
Like those Scarab Occults came in and just destroyed that unit. And then I'm like, I can pile into Ragnar. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And he's like, you want to do that. Like you don't want him charging you. Right. You want, I'm like, okay, you know what? The Scarab Occult Terminators are now just a speed bump. And I just piled him into him. And for 2 rounds, he held him up.
Wow.
Of combat. And that was like almost key to the game. Like it would have gone a lot more against me.
Yeah.
He ends up deep striking Terminators into my backfield to charge onto one of my objectives. I charge him with Spawn, 2 Chaos Spawn.
Nice.
Spawn are different from Codex to Codex now.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. The Corn Spawn are like brutal in combat.
Yeah.
My Spawn, they're still pretty good in combat, but they also heal 3 points a round.
Wow.
In each player's command phase.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I charge.
They're always changing.
I charge him with these Spawn. He causes 3 wounds to one. They have 4 wounds.
Right.
Causes 3 wounds to one of them. And I'm like, okay, it's your turn. My guy heals up full. He's like, oh my
Heals
God.
3.
And his Terminators never moved.
Oh, wow.
Never moved.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Huh.
It wasn't just like I shot him with some rubrics too. There's this, I was playing the rubric heavy formation. There's this other thing where you can do with these stratagems where like basically even the Rhino for the 1,000 Suns is different. When you disembark from the Rhino of the 1,000 Suns, that round of shooting, any psychic abilities gain like additional like +1 to damage, +1 to wound or something. I don't remember what the exact thing is. I have to go back and look. You get a benefit that round.
Yeah.
So that's okay. But if you load 10 rubric Marines into there with the aforementioned Exalted Sorcerer with them, then you use this stratagem, it turns all their bolt guns into psychic attacks.
Oh.
So now all of a sudden their bolt guns are like whatever. And by the way, all like rubric bolt guns are like -2 AP.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
across the board. They're good.
Solid, but
and so like now all of a sudden they're like even stronger. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to pull this off. I pull up my Rhino. I get my guys out. He blows up my Rhino before I can. I'm like, no.
Wow.
Because the Rhino has to shoot a unit.
Yeah.
And whatever unit it hits, all it has to do is hit it.
Oh, to trigger.
Then it triggers that effect. So he blew up the Rhino before I got to do it. I'm like, so one thing I wanted to do. So then I use the other Rhino full of 10 rubrics. I fire in the Terminator, completely ineffective. I was very let down by the entire process.
Wow.
It takes a lot to pull off, and I was a complete failure at it. But game was fantastic.
So Logan, being in recovery for the next game, are you? Yeah, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to spoil it. But are you planning on bringing Magnus for the third game?
Magnus comes in the third game, and he gets a knight for his third game.
Okay, so you have Logan and a knight, and Magnus is showing up. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the second game is like 2,000 points. Third game's 3,000 points. Second game is like I've got like Warp Storm going on now.
Yeah.
And so like there's random effects that will affect both of us during the Warp Storm.
Love it.
Yeah. And I think the key here though is like somebody who was getting frustrated with 40K, I was like, let the doctor in, right?
Hey kid, let me show you another way to play.
And I put on the rubber glove, and Travis, I think, like, he was like, this really speaks to me, like this way of playing. It was funny because Tom and Cheyenne played a game, and they were talking about, maybe we'll try one of these White Dwarf missions you keep talking about. I'm like, oh, sure. Here's like this packet of White Dwarf missions. And Cheyenne was having a very hard time wrapping it. What do you mean we don't use secondary objectives? I go, well, you can if you want. I go, but there's no need to. Like, the mission is not designed for it. Just play it. Yeah. And he was like, this. I can see him like, this does not compute. It's like, it's a different way of playing. Those White Dwarf missions, I am all about them.
Yeah, I have to check those out. They sound phenomenal.
I wrote a letter to White Dwarf.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. Just gushing earlier this week. I was like, I got to tell you, I'm absolutely in love with this.
That's awesome.
Here's a picture of my wife playing, I'm like, I don't know if it'll get published, but oh my God.
It'll get published.
Because I didn't tell her. She's not sitting over there. I didn't tell her. No. Oh, please let it get published. Yeah. I'll be, look,
you're in White Dwarf.
She'll lose her mind. She'll get so mad at me.
Yes.
But then also kind of happy.
So anyway, like, mission accomplished. Yeah. Like, Travis had a great time. He's absolutely looking forward to the next one.
Yeah. He's such a role player that it makes total sense that he would enjoy.
And even Cheyenne called me the other day, and he was like, I've been thinking about this and blah, blah, blah. And I came up with this idea, and how would this work? And we talked our way through it a bit. And he was like, I want to make it kind of generic so anybody can do, like, it doesn't have to be Necron versus such and such. And I'm like, oh, this is a very clever idea you have here, Cheyenne. I go, embrace it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it worked.
Lean into it.
What have you been up to besides work? What was your last game?
I did manage to get a single game in since we last recorded. And this was for, again, the Old World Escalation League, and played against local Santa Cruz friend Craig, who
Golden Demon
winning Craig, and his beautiful Vampire Counts army. So this was some vampire action.
Makes me sick. His sisters look so good.
His vampires also look so good.
What? That's weird.
Yeah.
And this dude's he's this. He's only been painting like 5 years.
Yeah.
Golden Demon.
Yep.
And
he's going places.
I hate you, Craig.
If he was a jerk,
he's also one of the nicest.
He's the nicest guy ever.
Yeah.
He's so talented.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for him.
He's a great guy. Went over to his house and played a game there. And this.
Well, you have to be invited in.
You have to be invited in because I was a vampire.
God, it was right there.
It's weird. He was wearing this garlic necklace the whole time.
Which is weird because he was playing vampires too.
Kind of having an allergic reaction. We played Breaking Point, which is kind of an interesting mission in that, like, the game, you basically play until one player has lost 75% of their army. Mm-hmm. So it's almost guaranteed that you're either losing the game or you're having a major victory, just the way the mission is written. I'm sure there's a way to tie. We did not have a tie, but it was very, very close first couple of turns of the game. We had surprisingly, I bet half our lists were very similar and the other half were extremely different. So Craig has had a harder time winning his games, but he's obviously a very talented painter and hobbyist. So he was really curious, and he was actually like taking notes on things that I did during gameplay and units that I had chosen for my list building. So I think because he wants
the potential of implementing,
he wants to potentially implement those, and it's just bring a little bit more challenge to opponents and things like that. So we were pretty neck and neck for, I'd say, the first 3 turns, and then things started going my way, and then I was able to kill his necromancer, who's the army general, and once you do that, everything starts crumbling very quickly for undead armies. So it went my way. Super fun game, gorgeous game. Both fully painted for a league game there. Craig's stuff amazing. I'm very happy with how my vampires are turning out.
Nice.
And the league has been the one thing that I can find the tiny little bandwidth to get some hobby in right now. Nice. So I'm glad to have it there. Next month is the last month for that. So I will hopefully be fully painted for the vampires and ready to jump back into 40K after I have to do a few Necromunda models for Westermunda.
What are you guys finishing at?
2,000 points.
2,000. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that a pretty standard size for Old World?
Yeah. No clue. I would say, the match play compendium that I think just went up for pre-order might change that a little bit. I don't know enough of that yet. But from what I've seen, I think 2,000 points has been pretty standard for most events.
I need to go pick up that deck from GW.
Oh shit, I do too. Sorry. Beep. I forgot I ordered that.
Yeah, I have mine sitting at Games Workshop. Anyway, all right, Brian.
So
tell us about your foray into 10th edition. Your first foray.
Well, I've played multiple games, but this was the first one where I couldn't get away with it.
Oh, okay. How do you mean?
What was it like when you were talking about Cheyenne having this like cognitive dissonance or brain meltdown going, wait, but there aren't any secondaries.
Right.
I hated secondaries. Like
really?
When 9th edition rolled around, it was a combination of that and play testing where you're just like, I don't care about this anymore. The secondary thing to me has always just been like, okay, I'll just play Drunken Commander, right? That was my Band-Aid. And I was like, I know enough to make things work. Well, with Josh, like we played this game a while ago and you probably already talked about it on this, but I'll just give the quick.
Oh, actually, I don't think I did.
Anyway.
Well, you're probably just trying to be nice. So our games, Josh is one of my favorite people to play with because our games are always...
They're usually like 2-point games.
They're super close.
Where they're so close. Like 74 to 76.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like...
And there are never any of those gotcha moments. Like we both let the other person know up front, like, hey, this is the thing that this does. And like if I catch something
absolutely
that he's not doing, I'll go, whoa. Or you could do this, so we'll because we give each
much
other
like Travis, game. Right? No, you don't want to get charged by that guy. You want to charge that guy.
Yeah. Because it just makes for a better game.
We're there to have fun. We're spending time together.
So we went to play a game and I was like, I just finished all these, 8-bound units and things. I was like, I'm going to bring, it wasn't quite a meme list, but I was like, I'm bringing all infantry, right? I'm going to go berserkers on foot. I've got the jackals, cultists. I had these 8-bound and I just finished Angron. So I was like, it's just going to be a circus. It'll be fun.
How'd that go for you?
I was trying to think back. I think when we were playing, I was even telling you, I was like, I don't think I've ever had a game where I'm 100% not in it at all.
Yeah.
Not like,
it just didn't work.
Yeah. Just wait until this happens.
It wasn't even die rolls. Just like, I brought some
die rolls.
I brought a water gun to a pistol.
Angron failed to do absolutely anything that game, which was unfortunate.
Well, but the funny thing though was it was the game that made me realize that I've been trying to approach 10th edition with like an 8th edition mindset.
Yeah.
And even I talked about this on the last Lost to the Nails episode. I was like, even me playing Drunken Commander is me trying to get out of learning secondaries. Yeah. And, because I'm like, I hate actions. And it's like, what are we doing here? World eaters, right? You got to just charge and kill stuff. And then it's like, there are
White Dwarf missions, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, but even then though, it's like, I'm not always going to be able to play those. Right. And so
why not?
The beauty of it though, was that was the game that made me sit down and go, okay, I need to actually try.
Okay.
I need to do some things. I need to brush up. I can't just show up, and
this game was
throw my jock on the court and just be like, yep.
It was
what did I do?
You can't phone it in.
It was a 100 to 20 game.
Oh yeah. And 10 was for painted.
Side. 10 of that was painted.
10 was for painting.
Oh,
yeah.
Holy gods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was lots of mistakes were made, but a big part of it was just, it made me actually say, well, wait a minute, I need to go. And I would try to use excuses before, like, well, but I don't know where all the updates are. And then you open up the app and you're like, oh, it's all right here.
Dude, the app.
Who needs the book?
The app is, you
need the book
I
for
live
the code?
by that app.
Yep.
I use the book for the code. And then I read about Sekitar robots and I was like, yeah, okay, I can make this work.
Yeah.
Like that. I don't know that I'll ever go read. I should read a little bit of the lore in it, but I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no rush.
Yeah.
But it was,
you're right though. That app is fantastic.
It's incredible.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But that game though was the one that made me go, you know what? I'm going to do, and then
I should learn how to play this,
which sounds bad.
Get good,
but I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying.
So long, and addition to addition, there's some stuff that changes, but it's like, a berserker with a corn axe is going to have a strength advantage and he's going to want to charge, right? Like this is
like
hard.
Fundamentally, this is what my units are assault units.
But even then though, like as I started reading and doing my homework, I'm like, oh, I need to stop assuming that X unit
does X.
When it charges C unit, I'm going to get this result.
Right.
A certain percentage of it doesn't necessarily equate. And so instead of fighting it, it's like, I love this game. Mm-hmm. I love the background. Mm-hmm. I've been painting it and playing it for over 30 years. the friends that I like and enjoy playing with also like this game, I need to just stop being a baby and learn it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and I don't mean like,
well, you raised an interesting point off mic, Brian, where you were talking about like what this unit does, like take Khorne Berserkers, for example. Yeah. Khorne Berserkers, they assault, right? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But if you take this other detachment for them, maybe it gives them a bonus even better. Like that's the one you want if you're running, like there's that kind of intricate piece. And what's interesting about that is I was talking recently with these guys because they just released a bunch of detachments free, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking about 11th edition, which is supposedly around the corner because of the 3-year time thing. And I'm like, man, I really hope it's just more like a 10.5.
2 years in now?
Yeah, we're coming up on it. And I'm really hoping it's more like a 10.5 because here's the really interesting thing, I think. The way they have formulated detachments this go around gives longevity to these codexes, especially if they're releasing new detachments. If you look at just the Chaos Space Marine Codex, based on the detachment you play, that army plays entirely different.
Yeah.
Entirely different. I'm working on my Demon Engine army right now. And here's the thing. It's like, I don't necessarily have to go buy a whole bunch of new models, but I do have to buy some, but
there's a core that you can share.
Yeah. But then I'm buying a few models. So GW's getting what it wants and I'm getting what I want because I get to play the same quote unquote army, but feel like I'm playing a totally different army. And it really does feel entirely different, along with some just core fundamental, dark packs are all the same. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah. But it's a fascinating, like it didn't really click for me until this last trip where I was like, wow, they really, like they can really extend the life of a codex this way. Like just give it another little tweak and you're like, oh yeah, this is something entirely new. I think the Scintillating Legion is a good example of that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, now you have these tokens that you pass back and forth. And
that's
it's
a really
like,
fun mechanic.
Wow, okay. Hadn't thought about that before. So yeah, it's just interesting, but you do have to look at those detachments and say, okay, how does this one work differently than this one? Which is why I went to Goonhammer and saw what they were saying. And I was like, okay, you put it in language I can understand easily.
It's funny. So the Goonhammer, I like reading the Goonhammer articles and they're well done. And like you were saying, there's a wide range of sort of perspectives and things like that. They also do BattleTech.
They're also focused on competitive play. Like every list you see, here's a sample list. It's like take 3 Mutilated Vortex Beasts. No, I don't need that.
Yeah. I don't need that either. But it was like the thing though, when I read the World Eaters one and I didn't feel like I really wrapped my head around it. And when I was just like, no, I'm going to act like a, teacher like I am by trade and just sit down and break this down and kind of look at things systematically. And then it kind of clicked for me. Right. But yeah, it was hard for me to wrap my head around the idea that these are all World Eater armies, but the detachment will make the unit that you think works that way work that way, versus if you take it in this other one because you want other units to work that way, you don't have that. So it kind of, it funnels your choices a little bit.
It does.
Yep. Actually not a little bit. It funnels your choices a lot.
But you could pick that other detachment if you wanted those things to do.
I know. Just play another game.
Yeah. Not all armies are, I think, the same extent. Like I've found the Index Eldar to Codex Eldar, like those detachments really force a direction of how you want to build that.
Yes.
Way more so than Space Marines, Blood Angels, whatever. Like obviously Marines get a little bit of everything. And Marines do to an extent because they definitely favor like certain units that you want to bring for that style of detachment play. But I do feel like World Eaters, Eldar, like they're very much funneling you into
Thousand Sons as well.
Build,
Like they have like a whole thing that's like, oh, here's basically, oh, you want to take mutants and Zangors?
Yeah.
Here you go.
Sweet.
Right.
It's like, all right. Is it great? I don't know. Looks fun though.
You get a lot of models.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So thematically,
yes,
which is the way I'm typically playing. Like it is perfect. So I mean, to that point, when we talk about Games Workshop's not really paying attention to narrative play, I'm like, I kind of took a step back from that a little bit. I was like, well, wait a minute. Like not all formations or detachments rather are going to be equal, obviously, but like this half demon, half, berserker list or half demon, half, rubric marine list. Like, is it the greatest powerless? No, but man, finally I get to, you know, and no, I don't get to use all the demons, but enough that I have like a smattering of it's a cool looking army. And
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Very thematic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's very interesting that you ran into that. Like that to me, Brian, like that is,
so one of the solves I have, not to interrupt you, but I will.
Please, please do.
Brian, for our games that we play with Sharkadons and World Eaters and your upcoming Slanesh army and my Eldar in progress, like I have written several of these like 3 story arc games that are absolutely just going to be narrative and wonderful like stories to see unfold that are not your 100 point 40K games, secondaries, all that stuff. Like it is very, very much like real-time strategy, objectives, objective based victory versus just abstract points. So I think we will have a great time playing that. And that's also how I'm more excited to play 40K these days.
There we go.
It's super fun. Super fun. Okay. So we're about to kick into a break and then come back and actually start Show of Force. Before we do that, I did have to mention, because I forgot to mention at the top of the show, this is the last month of the Hobby Progress Challenge. And Shell's been tallying everybody up, and I see people have been closing out their 12-month stuff. So there's quite a few people who have actually completed entire 12 months. I think we set, I'll put it in the show notes, but I think it's the 8th or 10th of next month is when we're going to do the drawing for all the prizes. So then we'll give you a month to breathe, and then we'll probably kick it off again. So
buckle up.
Yeah, but I mean, again, period for entry is now done. So you can't even enter now, but get that if you only have one complete, you still get entry into the drawing. So it's worth doing.
Yeah,
it's worth doing. So all right, so we're gonna take a short break, then we'll come right back and we'll leap into Show of Force. All right, and we're back. And now we're finally going to get into Show of Force World Eaters. One of the few Show of Forces we haven't done, but we do need to go back and, I think, clean up some older ones.
Yeah, we've only done, we did Tyranids and Marines as an update?
We did it as like a joint kind of update thing. So, all right, so let's talk World Eaters. Brian, this is why we brought them here. The Codex releases for World Eaters. So first off, like, even back in like second, third, 3.5 edition of the Chaos Space Marine Codex, you had Berserker lists. You could call them World Eaters, but they weren't specifically like, there wasn't specifically like a World Eaters specific Codex. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you could have a Khorne themed.
Yeah.
Correct.
You take a Lord with a mark of Khorne.
Yeah.
Then you unlock Berserkers as troops. They move from elites, and then it's technically and don't take Psychers, and then it's a World Eaters army.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I do like that the Chaos stuff is getting more back to the thematic.
Absolutely.
Than it used to be. Like I would say we are closer to that 3.5 exalted chaos codex that people always love so much than ever before. So it isn't until 7th edition that we kind of even get a little closer with the Khorne Daemonkin book that comes out, which is really, they're not truly World Eaters, but they're like, oh, look, now you can take Berserkers and you can have demons within the list, and you get blood points, and if I recall correctly.
Blood tithe, yeah.
You know, the funny thing about that was I had, just before that came out, sold off, I had a Berserker. It was all Forge World Berserker models.
Oh, wow.
A Forge World Demon Prince, which I kept the Demon Prince. I had a Soul Grinder, which I used as a Defiler. I had demons that I would summon in.
Lord Zufar.
I mean, I basically had, Zufar.
Yeah.
I basically had this list, and then they released it. I was like, oh, well, I already sold it.
That's too bad.
Which is okay. Because there were times in, I think that was like 5th and 6th edition, 5th for sure, where it's like, if you had a demon weapon and you charged and you rolled, if you rolled a 1, you took wounds. and didn't get your bonus attacks, but
otherwise you
don't think you got any attacks. I think it prevented you. But the Khorne marked Chaos Lord rolled 2d6, and my God, whenever I'd roll 2 6s, it was awesome.
17 attacks from one guy.
So they're not truly world eaters, but you kind of get the sense, like the leaning here with that list. But it's not until 9th edition in February of 2023 that you get the first World Eaters Codex. And then I think you might have typed this, Brian.
Oh, that was definitely mine.
Yeah.
Where you typed, it rained in blood for like 5 minutes before 10th edition, and the Codex became obsolete immediately, which is such a bummer, man. Yeah. And this wasn't the one. I know in 8th edition, they released a supplement or a Codex, and then like immediately 9th edition came out.
Yeah.
And people were furious. They had just bought like this Codex. I can't remember what it was. And then basically GW even said, if you have your receipt, you can come in, we'll refund you the money for the Codex. So it's like, that's pretty cool. But here, you guys just took it in the shorts.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I think I'm trying to remember what was going on.
By the way, cover art's fantastic on this.
Oh,
it is.
It always is. Yeah. But yeah, I think there was something going on in personal life. I actually didn't play a single game with that Codex at all. Like by the time I had a chance to go, it was 10th edition.
There are, I would even say I've bought editions of Codexes early on when they come out and never played them and had them for like in hand for a year and a half.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially like my Eldar Codex, which I picked up recently too. And I was like, I'm going to play these Eldar.
But see, I don't have to feel bad because I had it in hand for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, this is not your fault.
It's 10th edition.
Yeah. So now finally, May of 2025, you get what I would call a supported World Eaters Codex, because you're going to have it for at least a year here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been it, but they've always kind of been there. Like I remember World Eaters being featured, and this again was where my Forge World models came from. They were featured in Siege of Rex.
Yeah.
Like they were heavily featured, and it was the World Eaters. Here they are. And it was, you had Khorne Berserker lists you could take, but you would take, basically the Forge World models were like the upper torsos and arms and heads. And then you put them on regular Chaos Space Marine legs, and boom, you've got pretty cool looking World Eaters.
Yeah.
They sold World Eaters Forge World doors and all that stuff. So I could put them on my Land Raiders and Rhinos and all that. And I love that. I love that stuff. But now we have a 10th edition World Eaters Codex.
Yes.
Thank God. We have, for the first time ever, Slanesh. We have Emperor's Children, Khorne. We have World Eaters, Thousand Sons, Magnus, and Death Guard with Mortarion. So you have like the big four there.
Yep.
Which is pretty exciting stuff.
Yep.
Plus Black Legion and everything they bring.
Or whatever warband you want to call it. Right. But, but very cool. So, okay, let's talk about kind of a historical overview of the World Eaters and their legion, and kind of, they were pretty instrumental in the Horus Heresy. So we have to go back like 10,000 years to the Horus Heresy to kind of talk about this, and even prelude to the heresy.
Notorious nice guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I have some thoughts around this too. Brian, what were they before they were the World Eaters?
So before the World Eaters, before unification, they were the Warhounds, and the members were all drawn from, they wanted really aggressive recruits, and it was a unit. It's the World Eaters without as much, well, I was going to say chaos.
In all but name.
So, I mean, if they were sent, the message was clear if they were sent that this was an annihilation,
right?
Versus like, you're not sending them to go take
to pacify, prisoners. You're going to destroy. Yeah.
So, I mean, there are classic, little stories they have in there of, them saying, "Oh, how many prisoners did you take?" And they're like, "We weren't instructed to take prisoners," and so.
In fact, we also killed some allies. So we have a negative tally on those prisoners.
Yeah.
Obviously the Primarchs get scattered.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Angron winds up in the worst of the worst scenarios where he's made to fight in gladiatorial pits.
Yeah.
Yes.
For the masters of Nuceria, and ultimately gets the the nails installed in his head, correct?
Right.
Does he choose to have those installed?
No.
He gets the enforcement. When reunification happens between him and his guy, they choose to go
future
that route
recruits
at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean,
Some do. Some get ordered to. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
Okay. And these nails, just so we're clear, cause like endless amounts of aggression and pain if you're not involved in anger and aggression, right?
So the whole thing with them is that it's this archaeotech that, like you were saying, it isn't just that it heightens aggression or gives you additional when you're engaging in violence. It's that you physically feel uncomfortable when you aren't doing that.
Right.
Right. And so it's almost like when you read all these accounts, especially in the Betrayer's great. There's a lot of scenes with this, but how it's almost like the nails are pushing the World Eaters, and it's almost like there's the promise of relief, you know, if they just go and hack up more things, and it just never comes, you know. So it's interesting because it's sort of this, you know, you have this gladiator slave who then is united with this legion after being torn away from his actual slave army that he was rebelling with.
Yeah, because the Emperor pulls him away.
The Emperor pulls him away, right? And then ultimately, I mean, of all the Primarchs, I can't think of another one that has a more difficult relationship with his legion. Like, he really doesn't like them.
Yeah.
And he
forces the nails upon them.
Forces the nails on them, and then he tells them, you know, like when they go to attack a planet, he's like, you have 31 hours, which is one Nusarian day. And if this world isn't brought into compliance, he would go through and just start decimating units, you know. And so,
like I said, notorious nice guys.
You know, I mean, here's the thing I struggle with the World Eaters, Brian, maybe you can help me through this, is the Emperor goes and makes X number of Primarchs. I think 20. We only know of 18. Whatever.
We don't talk
We
about
know there
those
were
two.
20.
21.
We don't talk about those two.
technically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Goes and makes these Primarchs. And it seems like everyone is focused on doing a different thing. Right? And for me, the struggle is, in what world did you not anticipate that these guys would be the first ones to fall to chaos? Like the very first ones. Like, I'm surprised they weren't. I'm surprised it was the word bearers.
Much like the Space Wolves, you got to have your enforcement legions.
Sure, but you had the Space Wolves, and they follow orders.
But the World Eaters are, you have the Space Wolves, but the Space Wolves like also follow a certain amount of reason.
Right.
Right? Like, you need the super loose cannon. Right? And the other thing is, I mean,
it feels like it's just a dangerous thing to have, because it's the hound that's going to bite the hand that feeds it, you know?
Right.
This sounds like a lot of hindsight over here.
I know, Harry Hindsight over here, second guessing the Emperor.
Armchair General Carl.
Listen, but he should have seen this coming. And if he did see it coming, then why?
Well, but I mean, I don't want to dive into the side theory. I mean, people sort of bandy about did the Emperor actually plan on, once the Imperium's fully established, once the Great Crusade's over,
what was
the Primarchs even living?
Yeah.
The World Eaters are a problem that solve themselves in that scenario.
How so?
What do?
They just go kill themselves?
They kill everything.
They just keep killing until there's nothing there,
or they're not there.
Or they have to be put down.
The problem solves itself. You don't have to put them down, because they will they'll do it for you.
I guess.
Doing their thing.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a weak link in the chain of reason, where it's like, why would you? But then again, look, there's people that raise dogs to go fight other dogs, right? I mean, in our world, and it's brutal and it's cruel, and they get upset if that dog turns and bites and attacks them, and it's like, what did you expect the dog to do? Yeah, I mean, I think actually that's an interesting parallel now that I'm kind of voicing it out loud.
And Warhounds.
Right.
Which is a little confusing with the Titan Warhound, but okay, regardless. So the Emperor comes where he's Angron is leading a slave rebellion against the people that have enslaved Nuceria, and the emperor shows up and he's like, "Hey, you're my son. You need to come with me." And he's like, "No, I'm not going to go with you. I'm in the middle of something right here, Dad. You're
not my real dad.
You're not my real dad." And the emperor's like, "Well, that's not happening." And he basically teleports him away from the conflict.
Right.
And leaves his army that he's raised to effectively kill or be killed at that point. So if I recall correctly, I think they get slaughtered.
Yes. And so here's the thing. The emperor leaves him there. He gets slaughtered. If the emperor intervenes in this, brings down imperial troops, you know, does the whole thing.
He's not going to be happy about that either, right?
He's not going to be happy about that either. But also, I mean, would he just? I'm trying to put on my emperor's hat here and think of his thinking.
Yeah.
Is it that the emperor was concerned that Angron would still be loyal to this group, and this group, these are all people that are beyond the age where they can be turned into Astartes.
That is true.
You know, I mean, so is he? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It does seem like a bad parenting move, though.
Yeah, well,
I will give it
I don't think anybody ever said the emperor's a good parent, right? Like clearly,
especially
he's not.
here.
He gives warm hugs, though. So.
Yeah, okay.
I guess so.
From the Astronomicon.
But it's,
okay.
Yeah.
So you know, he brings them back. He gives them his legion back. Here you go. Here's these guys that you get to have.
Yeah.
This is not dangerous at all. And sets him loose in the compliance wars where you were talking about earlier. It's
and let's go to bad parenting moves. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
All of the other Primarchs were given another Primarch to take under their wing. Like, hey, welcome to the club, bro.
I'm going to show you around.
This is what having a legion means. And this is what you're going to do. They were just like, no, he's ready to go. Just drop him in the middle.
Except Horus. Horus was kind of.
Yeah.
You're on your own, but he was so good. He was a Primarch among Primarchs.
He was a natural.
Well, this is true. This is true. But yeah, when he's first united with the Legion, they were like, okay, send in so-and-so. And yeah, he goes through quite a few people before Karn goes in there.
Yeah.
And the thing that takes him out of his rage and his stupor is that Karn actually won't strike him, you know, and Angron's screaming at him, you know, like, are you all cowards, right? And he's just like, I won't strike you.
Yeah.
And he sees that he's willing to actually stand defiant to him, even though he's going to get killed and murdered.
Yeah.
And then when he starts talking about the legions and how they fight, you know, there's that great scene in Betrayer where, you know, he describes Angron sort of like playing out, you know, the battles in his head and like this sort of, you know, stuff that's genetically wired in him to work. And that's sort of what soothes him and takes him in. But,
yeah. I wonder if, I mean, clearly that whole programming piece is probably deeply in conflict with the nails that have been embedded into him too. Right. Like, I mean, we should, whether he was raised this way or not, like he's also working with effectively a handicap, right? Like he's been
probably
it's
a
nature
tactical
and nurture in
genius.
this
Yeah,
case.
right. Yeah, for sure.
He was not dealt a good hand.
No. So, okay. Fair enough. Obviously the heresy at one point breaks out. Now, again, I feel like if I'm given if I know nothing about 40K, other than like, here's the backstory of each of these Primarchs, which ones fall to chaos? I'm like, well, clearly this guy does.
Yeah.
No. I think it's without a doubt probably the easiest slide into chaos
easily
for any of them. They're you know, Angron still holds resentment and anger towards the Emperor for perceived slights of removing him away from.
I don't know if that's perceived.
Okay, real
that's
slight.
like real slights.
He leaves him there and watches Angron get slaughtered, or he pulls him out to use him as the tool he was designed to be used. So yeah, I guess it's a real slight, but like this is the purpose for which you were born, not this, which is an interesting stance from the Emperor's perspective, right? Like I didn't spend all this time tracking you down and make you.
The word you use, they are just tools to the Emperor, right? They're not sons.
They are.
Like he might be dad to them, but they're not really sons to him.
I personally think like that is genetically encoded into them. Just like there's a lot of discussion in the Horus Heresy series where like Space Marines like come into the presence of the Primarch and they're like driven to their knees, or they're literally in awe of their Primarch or whatever. And that is not just, the Primarch's powerful and wonderful. It's genetically encoded, I think, into the Space Marines to do this. I truly believe that.
Well, but what's interesting too, though, is in Betrayer, sorry to keep going to that, but
no, it's a great book.
It's a great book.
That's the book that made me spend thousands on a heresy army. I was on vacation in Florida, visiting my wife's family. I finished my book on the plane, drove to a gaming store, and I was like, Betrayer, that looks good enough. Started reading it, and I was like, I think I'm just going to waste all my money. And here we go. But
Disney World's canceled, kids.
Yeah. Well, that was before kids. That's when I could do stuff like that.
Disney World's canceled, wife. Yeah, it's a great book. It's a great book, without a doubt.
What I was going with that on is they talk about how there's a speech in there where a guy's talking about how he's saying, have you been in the presence of another Primarch, like in the presence of Dorn or Milliman or any of these, and they feel that awe and wonder. And the World Eaters view their own Primarch, even though they're trying to sort of relate to him. They take the nails, right? They're trying to do everything to connect with this guy. And they're like, they view him as a broken thing that you should be afraid of.
And I think that, I think that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah.
Like that's a pretty good description of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a very unique, I think it's the most unique relationship between Primarch and sons, quote unquote.
Yeah.
That there is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's almost a disdain between both parties here.
Yeah.
Yet they still are moving forward.
They still try. Right.
Why won't you love me, Dad?
I know.
Because I got these nails in my head.
Take the nails. Yeah. Everything. And it's just, it's really tragic.
They participate in the massacre, Istvan 3. Obviously purging as many loyal elements as they can from their forces. Of course, a few escape, as we know. But for the most part, all loyalist elements are wiped out.
Yep.
During that massacre. And then on Istvan 5, they also the drop site massacre. They
kill
also
the rest of the loyalists.
kill a lot of. That's when they fight the other loyalist legions as well in the big trap. And then as we mentioned earlier, like they kind of fall into Khorne's embrace over the period of the Horus Heresy. Taking the nails, in effect, they're kind of worshiping Khorne just through the slaughter that Khorne requires.
Hey, you like slaughtering? I like slaughtering. Let's be friends.
We should be friends. Did we just become best friends?
Yup.
I think, as the heresy prior to the Siege of Terra, but like as the heresy kind of draws to an end, there's this, I can't remember which book it is. I know John French wrote it. But there's like the final like Horus Heresy book before Siege of Terra books. And it's like, okay, here's like all the Primarchs and their fleets, and they're all heading to Terra. And like Angron is like standing on the nose of the ship as it's entering the warp, like roaring at the warp, like outside the ship. It's just like, it was so
perfectly normal, perfectly natural.
Well, keep this in mind when you're talking about the World Eaters. Sometimes when you look at something and you're like, this seems like it's too much. 80s metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
80s metal.
It
all makes sense.
The interesting thing about the World Eaters and the Khorne demons in particular, I remember when Demons as a Codex first came out, and then I saw like all the demon models, and I'm like, the hell is this? Like the Tzeentch models and the Slanesh models, and like I was coming from a point where like I didn't know a whole lot about the lore.
Yeah.
They did not match what I would have thought of as demons. Khorne matches the like, oh, you're in hell. This is what demons look like.
Yes.
Oh yeah, these are demons. Yeah, okay. Like so, initially I was very drawn to the Khorne stuff because of the familiarity, if you will, with it. But as time has gone on, and I've learned to appreciate some of the finer points of the stylistic choices they've made, Tzeentch is where I sit. But I get it. Like Khorne, I totally get it.
Khorne is the very accessible faction.
Absolutely.
You're like, what
pretty
do those
straightforward.
guys do? They look like they murder things. You're like, guess what? They do. You're good.
How'd you know?
Yeah. You're home.
Turns out.
They do over the course of the heresy begin to like just abandon all pretense of real strategy. They're just slaughtering for the sake of slaughter at this point. They become berserkers on the battlefield and feared for that particular thing. They're not working in orchestration with like the other units, like especially if you read, the Siege of Terra, and I'm going to avoid some spoilers, but like there's actions that like Abaddon and like the Terminators with him take that you're like, yeah, this is very focused, like special forces maneuver, blah, blah, blah. Hey, we need some guy to break rocks. Yeah. Okay. Send that guy to those guys. Right. Like
Hulk smash.
We just need guys to be slaughtered. Send those guys, and whatever happens to them happens. They're not listening to orders. They're just off doing their own thing, They're kind of relentless throughout the whole Horus Heresy. And there's some great scenes, by the way, where they run into, Sigismund at one point. I think it was Sigismund. Yeah. He becomes the first like champion of the Fist, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And then Black Templar.
Grandmaster.
Later on.
But they're just kind of roving, the Legion even kind of breaks up and it's just kind of doing their thing. To speak about Angron, like Angron's not even leading them.
Right.
He's literally just off.
Right.
I'm mad. I'm going to destroy tanks, and I can't get into the palace yet because it's protected by this anti-chaos force field, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try to go in it anyway. It hurts. I've been destroyed. I'm back. It's like, what's your Legion doing? I don't care. I'm going to kill some of these guys over here now.
And I say this as a World Eaters Horus Heresy fanboy. He is the best. He is the absolute worst Primarch as far as being a Primarch.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But he is my absolute favorite.
Magnus is pretty bad too, dude. You know what? You know who else? Fulgrim's pretty bad. Mortarion, they're all kind of bad in their own way.
None of them are actually great.
Now that I think about it, like,
except for Vulcan.
He's the worst in the sense that he basically abandoned his Legion.
He's terrible at his job.
Yeah. Yes.
He has one job and he's terrible at that.
If he had on the job training.
As a solo artist, though, I celebrate his entire catalog. I love this guy.
That's a great way. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah. Because at a certain point, even Fulgrim goes down that path where he's just like, I'm done with all this.
Yeah.
I'm just doing my own thing across the galaxy. Yeah. Magnus kind of just capitulates. He's like, all right, just kill me.
Yeah.
He's like, wait, actually don't.
Yeah.
And Mortarion basically sells his whole Legion out, you know, so they're all kind of crappy in their own way. But I think you summed it up well. Like his solo.
Oh, his solo catalog. I celebrate the entire thing, but he's an awful bandmate.
Yeah. So once Horus falls, as we know, everything breaks apart. All the legions scatter. Oh, we should mention, actually, I believe they were the first ones over the wall in the Siege of Terra. And there's actual text in some of these books that is like, there's video footage, remnant video footage of them like crossing the threshold. Like they made it into the Imperial Palace first. Yeah. And we're right at the gates of the Imperial Palace. It's interesting because in the Siege of Terra, some of the books, like, things are so chaotic and broken. There's no longer like waves of opponents against waves of opponents. It's just like the cities are decimated and you just have like roving packs of warriors just coming into conflict with each other. Yeah. And there's some great stuff in those books about that. And in particular about the Berserkers.
In that type of a battle, especially for the Siege of Terra, that's where the World Eaters that's where their flaw actually works, right?
To a degree, yeah.
Because like in, sorry to go back to Betrayer, the scene where they're going to attack this Ultramarines line, and Karn realizes that they're overshooting artillery to drive them forward,
right?
And he's just like, he kind of has this realization, like, oh, these morons, we do this every time,
yeah.
And he's watching these Ultramarines, these elite, fighting in formation. They
Right.
form a shield wall, and he has this moment of jealousy, right? Where he's like,
Look at how organized
he sees
they are
a legion
and efficient.
he sees what the legion could be.
Yeah.
Like if they actually fought, like, they fight in the pits all the time recreationally, chained up together.
Right.
If they actually did that as a unit,
Right.
they would be unstoppable. But then when they finally hit the line, right, that's when the famous line, our turn.
Yeah.
Right. Once it gets in and it's messy like that, like you just go blind with rage, tear stuff up, and then all of a sudden things just running around doing whatever doesn't necessarily matter as much. Right. Because
synchronized swimming meets chain axes.
yeah. It's, I put in the notes here. This is the thing that I'll put this in for any metalheads out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the nails promise you that you're going to have relief. They help push you. They make you a stronger warrior. They make you better able to sustain injury. They make you lose your fear of death, so you can achieve these things. And like the problem though, and this is like the problem with Angron, is that not only is he removed from his slave army, his legion is also removed from him as well. And so the way that they fight though, it's like the nails are almost promising, this is for metalheads, it's almost promising like these beautiful soaring sections and, Amon Amarth, where they have these like harmonized metal solos that are going, and it's like, it's beautiful. And you're like, my God,
Right.
it's so great. And it ends up just sounding like a bad, if you guys know who Kerry King is from Slayer, the lead guitarist,
Okay.
it's not good. It's just a lot of notes and you want it to stop. That's what the nails are. So it's pretty appropriate.
Wonder how the Emperor's children hear it.
Oh,
Probably painfully so.
yeah.
But they like it.
But then they relish in that. Yeah. Okay. We know what happens during the Siege of Terra in general.
Yes.
Everything breaks apart. Chaos flees to the Eye of Terror.
Mm-hmm.
Along with Angron. Angron leaves as well. Everything, like all once they're there, there's infighting amongst not just the world eaters, but there's infighting amongst all the chaos,
all the legions.
Mm-hmm. The sons of Horus are ridiculed. Why did we follow Horus? And Horus, there's a great line by Abaddon. I think it's Horus was weak. Horus was a fool. But there's no unity, and you have, especially with the world eaters, almost an orc-like mentality where it's like the strongest kind of take the leads of different war bands as they kind of break up and scatter throughout the Eye of Terror.
Yeah.
All of these though, like pretty fully embrace Khorne at this point. It's like, how do we get more skulls for the Skull Throne?
Yeah. So it's a little, and this is where there's one book that I would throw out there that gets overlooked a lot. So there was, Anthony Reynolds had a book titled Kharn, Eater of Worlds.
Yeah.
And it is specifically about this time period.
Oh, really?
And so the book isn't even told from Kharn's perspective, right? It's told from all these different, you see all these different pieces within the Legion. So there's a World Eater's captain that's still walking around in the white and blue, right?
Sure.
It has Warhound regalia on him. You see though that all these people are sort of jockeying for position, and there's a great scene in there where they're all meeting, and there's like holograms of everybody from their ships, and like when I can't remember if it was Delveris or one of the captains, like there will be like a static feed, and then there's like some demonic leering face that looks at him. And it's
I remember this
type of thing, but they want to try to assume, because Angron's clearly gone.
Right.
And Angron had pieced out long before as far as the leadership thing, but Kharn still wasn't dead yet, right? It's like
he went to go
coma.
get milk and cigarettes and didn't come back.
Well, no, they have him, and he's in a coma in this book, right?
Okay.
And so there's like this weird power struggle, and like it's
Wait, Angron is?
no, sorry,
Kharn.
Yeah.
Angron to
Kharn
get
is-
cigarettes.
Oh yeah, no,
Angron's off.
Yeah.
He went. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you see that sort of weird dynamic where people want to sort of, of all the legions, they were probably doomed to splinter the fastest, because their whole
Agreed.
unifying idea, their whole unifying thing is, we murder stuff.
Right.
And they weren't disciplined in any sort of way.
Right.
Right. So it's
not any longer for sure. Yeah.
They hadn't been disciplined for a long time at that point. Right. And so, yeah. And I won't spoil the end of the book, but there's,
I haven't read that. I do know that scene you're talking about. So I feel like I read, but I don't think I've read this book. I want to check this out.
Yeah.
So again, you know, they're kind of they've fallen apart effectively. And a lot of legions have, you know, this is how chaos just kind of has manifested itself. And then, you know, and this is why Horus rebuilding as the Black Legion, and a lot of people mistake
Abaddon,
or excuse me, Abaddon, forming the Black Legion. A lot of people often would make the mistake of going, oh, well, they used to be the Sons of Horus. I'm like, no, they're not.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. Actually, there's a few Sons of Horus scattered in there, but it is
the ones that didn't get murdered.
Yeah, it's from everybody who looked for somebody who was a charismatic leader that had power, and this was him.
And there are hints of chaos in there. So like in that book, there's the equivalent of like a chaplain. I think they call him a blood priest or something.
Okay.
Baruda, I think, was the name of the character, and he keeps talking about the Blood Father. Right. Okay. So it isn't Khorne by name, but clearly we all know where this is going.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So cut to the 41st millennium, right? We've the Eye of Terror occasionally erupts with, you know, war bands coming out of it, breaking against Cadia or what have you, some, you know, getting loose into the rest of the galaxy and raising hell wherever they go, what have you. But they're effectively raiding. I mean, we get a retcon, so to speak, of the 13 Black Crusades that end up making, they're all steps towards, which actually I actually prefer the retcon.
Sure.
They're all steps towards a larger goal.
Yep. They're not failures.
Yeah.
They're stepping stones.
We have, that's right. They're not failures, they're stepping stones. And when I look back, there were two sets of footprints, mine and Khorne's, you know, and as all this transpires, the World Eaters take part in you know, assaults on Cadia and the destruction of the planet, which ultimately rips the Cicatrix Maledictum open, making even it more dangerous to travel the galaxy and easier for Chaos forces to make their way around the galaxy. Then we get Angron's return. Mm-hmm. Now, some of this is prompted by, hey, GW wants to sell another Primarch model, Chaos Primarch model. I don't blame them.
As well they should.
As they should.
Yes.
I don't know that they need to bring back many more Loyalist models, but as long as they keep making money doing it, I think they're going to keep doing it. But
I could see a few coming.
Angron's model gets released. And I don't know how divisive it was. I thought it was an amazing model. Like when I saw it, I think it's a great representation of him on the battlefield. I think he looks vicious. I personally very much like the model. I'm curious what you think about it.
Well, I mean, the model, when you look at it, is such a callback to, was that a Mark Gibbons piece? The original,
the artwork?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer
remember
the artist. I know the exact piece you're referencing, but yeah.
Whenever you say Angron, that's like the first image that I ever saw of him that pops up in my head. Yep. And when you look at the model, you're like, this is, they nailed it. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, as a huge fan, when the model came out, I was like, thank you. Of course, we knew this was going to come. This is great. And when the model came, I feel it hit all the right notes. And when you look at the model, there are cues to his heresy armor, you know, as far as like the horn design on the chest plate and everything like that. He has the bandolier of skulls.
He does.
You know, not ones that he's taken, but these are the ones, you know, like from this area and stuff like that. And it's just
axes chained to his arms and
axes chained.
Well, axe and sword.
Yeah. And you see sort of like the remnants of his Primarch armor there. And it's like all the design cues are there and it's perfect.
Giant butchered nails.
Isn't Karn wielding one of Angron's axes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gorechild.
Gorechild.
Because he had Gorechild and Gorefather. Right.
Right. Okay. I thought I recalled that.
But that's when he was just Primarch level.
Right.
That would be like a a toothpick for him now. Right. So
he got bigger.
Okay, so it's interesting because like we're saying he comes back, but I would say he never really went anywhere. Like within the lore, like he's out there, like doing his thing and
killing, maiming,
killing it, and gathering skulls and raging against the
whatever's there.
Yeah, whatever's there. I was trying to come up with it's not the machine, raging against the dying light of the Astronomicon. And I just thought it was cool that finally we have a representation of him on the table.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think the first one to come out was Mortarion.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
No.
Magnus was
the first.
Was he?
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah. Because Mortarion came out at the beginning of 8th.
You're right. They pulled him out of the garbage can.
That's right.
The pictures had been leaked and then they went and said, oh, look, we got, okay.
Their cheeky video.
Yeah. That was a great one too.
Yeah.
But I think it wasn't a big surprise. Magnus had come out, Mortarion had come out, then Angron comes out. And then of course, it's like, well, when does Fulgrim show up? Even the release of Fulgrim wasn't necessarily a surprise. It was just like, well, when's it going to come out and what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
Even better than that. Because I think everybody knew Emperor's Children were going to get, we're like, okay, we're getting 7th edition. We got Thousand Sons. 8th, we got, Death Guard. We get World Eaters in 9th. We're like, we got to get, we have to get. And
how could you not?
My favorite move, and I don't think this was intentional, was when they released the Heresy Fulgrim.
Yes.
Demon model.
Which is amazing.
It's an amazing model, but just how
nightmare.
Much recreational outrage there was on the internet. Like, why? How could they do that? And it's like, no. You're going to get both. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can have both.
God, the fragility of that model scares me.
It is absolutely amazing.
The Fulgrim one?
Yeah.
I've never touched it. Like,
I won't touch it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
I have Mortarion and like I painted it and I packed it as gently as I could, and I drove 12 minutes to Herrick Games, and I was like, Sky, please put this somewhere and just don't look at it.
Put it in a case.
Versus the Angron one is like...
Yeah, so it wasn't a surprise for me that Angron came out. It was more just a matter of what's he going to look like and when's he going to show. The one thing, diverging for a second, I will say about the Emperor's Children coming out, there was for a while discussion about, GW doesn't really want to go down this route of...
just embracing Slaanesh.
Embracing Slaanesh. Like there's some concerns around the mature themes around it and blah, blah. And I think they've done a good job of steering in the right direction with it. A lot of we did this when we did like our shows on Chaos and each of the Chaos gods and all that. And like a lot of people really steer into this, Slaanesh is all sex and blah, blah. And it's like, there's that aspect of it, but that's just a very small aspect of what Slaanesh is all about.
And to be fair, like in the lore, to be fair, sorry. To be fair though, how much of that is people on the internet adding their own thing?
100%. No, that's what I'm saying.
It's like it's sensation and this, that, and the other. How much of that is just, prepubescent folks?
100%.
There you go.
I completely agree.
I think that we were talking about this problem that they don't actually have.
Slaanesh did used to have a lot more nipples.
There were.
Like puppies.
But I mean, there was like a nipple reduction act in like 5th edition or something. They started, I did not think this was going to go there tonight.
I just saw a post on Reddit where somebody had a cat. They're like, I've never owned a cat before, but they've got these bumps on the thing. Is this something I should get the vet looked at? People are like, those are nipples. And they're like, oh my gosh, thank you for telling me. Like I had no idea. And they're like, no, this question comes up about once a month. It's like not unusual.
Wow.
That's funny.
People don't know. Okay. Yeah. Back to Angron though. Yeah. The model comes out. I love it. We'll talk more about models later. Mm-hmm. He kind of participates galaxy wide in this Arcs of Omen campaign, invading Imperial worlds and all this. I mean, great stuff. Like I'm very happy with where they're going, honestly, in the lore there. But World Eaters as a faction in 10th edition now, they have their own codex.
Yes.
They are a dedicated Chaos Space Marine sub-faction. Their codex has 5 detachments, something like that. Maybe even 6 detachments within it. So they got a very full treatment. Whereas I feel like the Emperor's Children are still half an army. They're working on that.
Yeah.
But like if you look at the Death Guard, the World Eaters, and Thousand Sons, they're a full suite of access to.
But I think they all started as that half an army release, and then have gotten second and like tertiary releases that have really rounded them out as full factions.
Yeah, the Thousand Sons didn't get a whole lot of bonus stuff, but occasionally they've picked up like a bonus model here or there. But they've always had access to tanks and blah blah blah.
And that's where the Emperor's Children one was.
I'm like, why didn't they get access to some of these vehicles?
Like a Predator?
Yeah.
I mean, Emperor's Children, like it's right there.
You would think.
Anyways.
Yeah. So, well.
Sorry, I went Reddit. I know, I went Reddit.
I was a little slow to the party on that one.
All right.
Listen.
That's a little word association.
We already got accused of being predators.
Oh, this is true.
Today, so.
This is true.
But anyway, I think, and I've seen the Codex in action now. Like I kept going over to Tom's game and watching him play, and I was like, this is a meaty Codex. Like if these guys get into close combat with you, you are in real trouble. And I don't know.
It's got teeth.
Yeah. And as Tom and I were driving down to Southern California together, talking about the various codexes, because my Thousand Sons one had just come out, and we were going through units and talking about them, and he was like explaining, oh yeah, but on the charge they get +2 strength and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, Exalted 8-bound do. So they're strength 10 attack. Let me get this straight. like I was just like going through, I'm like, how do you, in my head, this is where I knew it was a great unit. In my head, my first thought was, well, how do you even deal with that? And then I was like, okay.
They have to walk there.
Clearly they're stick them in a Land Raider.
Can they go in a Land Raider?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, now you're talking a very expensive unit.
Yeah, of
right.
Course.
But, okay, they just become the priority target. Like you just make sure like they do not get in, you have to deny them that ability. Otherwise you're in trouble. But so 10th edition, they have a full codex. They're known for their incredible melee power. They don't have a ton of ranged units, but they still get access to tanks and things that we get access to. But really their strength is in close combat. And they have a devotion to Khorne, and they're a terrifying primal threat on the table, and thematically, like within the lore, like they're kind of on the rise, as is Chaos is entirely right now. Like it's been kind of the year of Chaos for codexes and that kind of thing. So let's talk a little bit about the themes around the army, which, the first one I have listed here is kind of the tragedy of Angron. And we kind of backed into this without the beeping earlier, but it is pretty tragic. I mean, look, he was, regardless of the Emperor deciding, okay, here, I've got this tool that's going to just be made for killing. Okay. But then once he gets the nails implanted in his head and the way he's raised in the slave pits and all this stuff, like it breaks it. He's broken. As you said, I think you said he's a broken tool.
Yeah.
Right.
It exacerbates all the flaws that were already built in.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is tragic. I mean, I don't think he was ever bound for like good things regardless, but in addition to that, as you talked about, Brian, his relationship with his Legion and their attempt to build a relationship with him, it's really like, there really is like this whole like bad father thing. I mean, we joke about it, but it's really there. Like, it's like, oh, I don't want anything to do with these kids, but I need them around to do this stuff. Okay, whatever.
Right.
Where they're just constantly fawning for his attention and not getting it. It is a very tragic tale, and ultimately they wind up consumed by hate in their attempt to make this connection. There's a degeneration of the Legion. We talked on that piece too, where all sense of brotherhood is lost.
Yeah.
Like every other Legion, there's a sense of brotherhood with your fellow Legionnaire. Even many times with other legions.
Yeah.
Right. But here, like these guys, I just feel like
they're left with nothing but the rage.
Not even themselves. Like it's not like, hey, brother gore slaughterer, you know, you're like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with you unless, let's go kill some stuff. Like that's the only thing that binds it. It's really, that's really pretty disappointing. They're a terror in the galaxy. Even other chaos forces kind of fear their mindless savagery. I was just reading a book and I'm trying to remember the title of it off the top of my head, and I'll come back probably after the break and mention it. But it has to deal with the Alpha Legion, and they're sneaking into this. There's a war zone going on around this hive city, and they're sneaking into the hive city to accomplish a particular objective. But meanwhile, there's, all these berserkers and stuff attacking the city. Everybody recommended this book, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it because I thought it was terrible. It was like, we're under attack. Oh, here comes Celestine, and she jumps in, and then they're like on this train going into the city.
Yeah.
And it's like the train's getting attacked by berserkers. They're like, oh no, Karn's there. It's like, how does anybody know this guy? It's terrible. But the one thing that was there was they used the berserkers in that scene to be kind of this wave of everybody was afraid of this thing, right? They are a terrifying entity because there's no control there.
Yeah.
Right.
There's terror
no control.
incarnate.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think the themes there are really just, I think the first two we mentioned really nail it though. No pun intended.
Brian's twitching over here.
I had a little itch back here in the head.
All right, moving on. So the World Eaters and how they fit into 40K in the game of 40K. They occupy a very distinct niche where they are both thematically and mechanically, they're a pure assault army. Mm-hmm. Like you are not going to build a long-ranged gun line of World Eaters. Like it's the absolute antithesis of what they're designed to do.
Right.
They get predators and forge fiends.
They do.
That's about it.
That's all in laying down the cover. They're firing the cover fire so they can.
They're firing behind over firing artillery.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. They excel at getting into melee combat and dominating it in that. And we'll talk about, in gameplay, they're just a pure close combat destruction army. And like I said about the Exalted 8-Bound, I'm like, how do you even deal with that? Like once that's in your field, it's like, unless my opponent rolls really, really bad, that's going to wipe a lot of my units, or unless I'm making a bunch of invuln saves suddenly, it
turns out killing them before they can do anything is probably the best way to do it.
Probably the best way to deal with it.
This guy gets it.
Yeah.
Pro tip.
Without a doubt. The Khorne Berserkers, Exalted 8-Bound, Lord Invocatus, they're all made. Oh, that's the other thing we should mention. Like they are made to close the distance fast too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like their foot troops are fast.
Yeah.
Everything about these guys are fast.
Yeah. They're deceptively fast too, and they have a lot of tools and mechanics that we'll go into later to get you there even faster.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the thing that I would throw in with this is when you were talking about them being a dedicated melee army, your opponent knows what you're going to do. Mm-hmm. But the whole trick with playing them is that I'm charging, but I'm going to force you with that charge to make a series of bad decisions.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're sort of forcing.
No, you keep going. You're absolutely right.
You aren't playing like sneaky 5 moves ahead chess. You're like, your next move is going to suck.
Yeah.
And I'm going to force you. You have 2 moves you can do and they both suck. And a lot of our stuff's going to die.
Yeah.
But are more of you going to die than me?
Yeah.
And
that's why it's so fun to play against them.
They are. And it's fun to play them.
Yeah.
They're just.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, you're making pretty fast moves. I mean,
Yes.
not necessarily making your decisions quickly, although that comes with practice. But what I'm saying is like you're crossing the board quickly.
Yeah.
And once you're in combat, you get to roll a lot of dice.
Yeah.
If you like rolling dice, this is probably a good army for you. And then it just you'll build on that momentum. Once you start killing units, you're moving on to the next unit to kill. And so I think there's a as we said in the notes, there's a risk reward to overextending and then getting shot off the board.
Yeah.
But I think you summed it up where it's like you're making the opponent make choices, and if they make a mistake in those choices in their threat assessment, or they don't see something coming, then they're in trouble. And this thematically works too. I mean, like there have been numerous Black Library books talking about charges of World Eaters into a line, and even before they hit the line, like this, like the terror that they put into their opponent. The thing we didn't talk about is their hatred of psychers.
Yep.
And so let's talk briefly about that. You're not going to field psychers in this army. And actually, there's a very interesting story I was reading as I was doing research for this, where they used to have librarians.
Oh, yes.
And there were like 12 remaining librarians in the Legion trying to prevent the
communion,
the communion, which would turn Angron into the form he's in now. And they end up getting destroyed in this psychic, phase.
Well, whenever World Eaters with the nails are around them, they would start to get nosebleeds and headaches and all these sorts of things. And all of the librarians that they tried to implant nails on, like their heads literally just exploded. And,
interesting.
And took out like whole companies with them. It was uncontrolled. So it was
psychic backlash.
It was very clear that psychers were not going to be welcome in the
oil and water.
Yeah, I was just going to say oil and water don't mix.
It wasn't
good. So okay, yeah. There's Khorne has historically is diametrically opposed to Tzeentch.
Disdain, right?
Yeah,
because it's weakness. It's it isn't martial purity. It's this is terrible radio. I'm waving fingers and saying,
no. But I know what you're saying. It's not about close combat and collecting skulls. It's about standing back and casting spells.
Right.
And so I mean, all of that said, that makes this army a very strong thematic counter to psychic based armies as well. I'm not aware, and again, I don't know the Codex in and out. I don't know if they have any specific psychic defenses or nullification things that like they used to. There used to be things that cause psychers problems. I have noticed more and more they are steering away from rules that prevent other players from doing things, like removing that agency from other players so much as giving you maybe resistances or things to that.
Yeah.
It's more fun.
And psychic attacks feel like they're almost turning into ranged weapons. Or just a reroll for your unit. It's kind of, they've kind of just turned into
until you see the Thousand Sons they basically have a psychic phase now.
Well, if somebody was going to have it, it would be that.
It should be them.
Which is fitting. Fine. And I'm excited to see that.
Oh, yeah. I'll talk about that later. But anyway, so you're never going to include psychers in this list. It's just pure brutality. If you're using demon engines, I don't know why you wouldn't be using Mauler Fiends. Like thematically, they seem to stick very well with it. Forge Fiends.
Absolutely.
They're too wimpy. They sit back and shoot. I'm just trying to steer you away from Forge Fiends in case I play you, because Forge Fiends are really good.
I have one.
Yeah.
I actually built it for my Black Legion, and I was like, oh, I need something that shoots in this army. And,
there you go.
And
do you though?
Probably not.
All right. So if you enjoy berserk charges, if you enjoy just getting in and rolling a lot of dice, this is going to kind of be the thing for you. Ritual slaughter in the name of Khorne. Even if you lose, then you can always sit there and go, well, Khorne was served today.
Skulls were collected. Blood was flowed.
That's right.
Khorne
cares not from where the blood flows.
Yeah.
They're ideal for players who love visceral themes, who like brutal lore, and enjoy collecting. It's an army with a very distinct visual aspect to it. There was an attempt, I think in 7th edition, they released a new Chaos Warband. And at first I thought, oh, it's World Eaters, but it's not. It's like this red armored warband, and I cannot for the life of me remember
Crimson Slaughter? Or?
The Crimson Slaughter.
Yeah.
And I was so disappointed it wasn't, they were not World Eaters. And I felt like they were trying to like establish like a new, look, we could make this kind of an anchor army. It didn't really take. I felt like almost they were stealing a little bit from the Khorne army, because when you first saw the artwork, you're like, oh, that looks like no, it's not a Berserker.
Well, red and black are kind of the classic.
Sure.
Right. Like
sure. But I think Berserkers have like just such a brutality look to them now, especially the models now. They're so distinctive looking. When I saw Tom's army on the table, I was like, especially those 8-bound guys, I was like, oh, those guys are huge.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy smokes.
Not a sleeve to be found.
Yeah. No, they fit right in with Justin's t-shirt styles. But it does have a very distinct thing. And as I look over my cabinets of Chaos here, that's one of the things I like about the current Chaos list is like all of them have a very distinct visual. My Thousand Sons look a very specific way. When I was dusting off my old Death Guard, which are all Forge World models and not really playable in the way Death Guard are playable now, it literally got me excited about Death Guard again. I was like, oh, maybe we should do, Death Guard. I'm like, no. My Black Legion are very distinctive, although I find the Black Legion paint scheme not the most flashy of paint schemes. But Shell's Night Lords are very distinctive as well. So I love that Legion-wise you have very distinctive looks. And I think the World Eaters fit into that niche super well.
And the profile of the models is also distinct enough. So people will call them the bunny ears, right? But it's basically like the skull thing. It's like even when people paint them in like a bone or an ivory color with red and brass accents, like you still look at it and immediately say those are Khorne Berserkers. Yeah. Right? So it's they have a great distinctive look.
And what's interesting is I've gone through all the phases on many of the Chaos Space Marines, even the Thousand Sons, whom I love. The first time I saw their headdresses, I was like, this is the stupidest looking thing I've ever seen. Like, what the? This is the dumbest looking thing. Oh, look at those bunny ears. Those are dumber looking, But then over time, like it's just become like, no, that's pretty cool looking.
It's actually pretty cool.
So I remember in second edition when they came out, right, with the what we know now as the Berserker head thing. I don't think I ever had the bunny ear thing. I was like, oh, it just spoke to me, I guess. I don't know, but
that's interesting.
I never looked at it and thought that looks ridiculous.
But listen, I'm one of those guys that was like the first time I saw Land Raiders, I was like, oh, I really don't like those. And now I'm like, oh, Land Raiders are awesome. Like sometimes
it takes a minute.
I have this evolving thing. Now there's a few things that haven't ever evolved. That Khorne lawnmower thing will never.
The Khorne mower.
Stilt guy.
And Stilt guy will never appeal to me. I'll underline that never and put it in bold.
The Khorne mower is the one model I don't have for World Eaters. And
good on you.
I don't blame
Good on you.
I don't know why I want to get one.
Or you can do the leg conversion for it though, which does actually look pretty cool.
No, but that's like
a different unit though.
That's a whole different thing.
Yeah, we'll get the
and I
other
have
thing.
that.
Okay, well you're fine then.
That thing's cool looking.
No, but why not both?
I mean, if you're a collector, you might as well. You got to have everything.
Okay, normal.
Yeah. Listen, you would
let's go
paint it very well. I'm not doubting that.
But it still would be as stupid as it is.
Yeah.
It's a lawnmower with blood tanks on it.
I can't take it.
I mean,
Khorne dozer.
And I get, and you know what's funny is that like
mower.
People will always go, yeah, but it comes from, Epic where they had, I'm like, cool, that was a bad idea back then too.
They looked bad in Epic too. Yeah, they did.
But they're cool. Well, I'd agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong. Okay, so over the years, we talked a little bit about how they evolved. Again, second edition, the Chaos Codex, they were really, they didn't have Legion-specific rules, that you had Khorne Berserkers. Third edition, you had the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Again, they were there with Berserkers, but you had a sense of marks of chaos in that Codex where you could now theme an entire army and vehicles in that army to represent it. And so you had Berserk heavy forces. And I believe in that edition as well, the big thing was the Rhino Rush, and they could assault out of rhinos in those days. And so, and then if I'm not also mistaken, they could roll into another unit and attack again. And then like there was a point where they could like roll through multiple
there was
units.
The overkill where, if you wiped a unit, you charged in the next one. And I believe you fought that turn. So I think like combats just kept going.
Yeah. Fourth and fifth edition, again, they're rolled into the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Many would argue those editions of the Codex were pretty poor. I had a lot of fun with the fifth edition Codex. Was it as good as when I went back and read the 3.5, which was before I played?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I see why you guys are upset.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get it. But I did have a lot of fun with the fifth ed Codex.
There were some strong builds in that.
Sure.
That were probably not fun.
6th and 7th edition, again, still in the Chaos Space Marine Codex. But also, backing up just a minute, going back to 4th edition, you did have, again, Forge World release models that were all World Eaters. You had a list in the
Siege of Rax.
The Siege of Rax that was, but there was also a lot of, we don't allow you to play Forge World models here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Back in those days, absolutely.
And as I'm uploading our back episodes, you will hear at one point I make a statement. I don't remember when it was. I was like, 5 years from now, this will not even be a discussion. Like, you will just play with Forge World models. It'll be fine. Yeah. And it was until they sunsetted all of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Squatted Forge World.
Yeah.
And they're gone.
And they're gone. And they're Legends units.
Yeah.
But again, 6th and 7th, as I said, they're just part of the Chaos Space Marine Codex. Codex Khorne Demon came out. We were talking about a little bit with that. That introduced the Blood Tithe mechanic, which I think was kind of the predecessor to where we sit now.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there were ways to get gamey with it. You would take like cheap cultist units to die so you could score a point. Like there were ways to.
What was the mechanic? Do you remember a little more detail around it? It was about either killing units or units dying. You accrued.
Both. Yeah.
You accrued blood points.
Yes.
And then you could summon in demons with those or do other effects.
You could spend those to have different effects.
Right. Then 8th edition rolls out. You still have Legion traits now, which is for the first time in years. And World Eaters got their own kind of Legion trait, which gave them bonuses for charging and restricted psychic attacks or psychic powers and that kind of thing. 9th edition is where we said that's kind of their breakout point where they actually get a codex, but then it lasts all of like 5 weeks or 6 weeks or something like that.
I think it was maybe 5. It was like 4 or 5 months.
Okay, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, but I call it 5 minutes.
Maybe I was being a little aggressive.
Yeah.
Same difference.
I mean, did you ever play it?
I didn't. No, because there was.
I think you said that.
Yeah, there was like a personal health thing in the family that was going on, and like by the time I got a chance to play, they were like,
it was done.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing saying you couldn't go back and play an older edition, but no, everybody's moved on. Let's be honest. Yeah. Everybody moves on. So here we are in 10th. They're fully supported. I wanted to talk about their organizational structure a little bit. Mm-hmm. They are, as I put in bold here, a legion in name only at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing holds them together really, other than strength for a period of time. Nobody's got a happy ending in the Khorne Berserker world.
Yeah, it's not a happy life. There are no great endings on these guys. It's just sort of screaming and headaches and
gathering skulls.
Yeah,
for Khorne and slaughtering in melee until you die.
Yes.
Their only unifying force is Angron's blood-drenched will, is what I put here in the notes, which occasionally draws them together, kind of making a magnet for the rage, where they're still like, I feel like they're still seeking out daddy's approval at that point on a subconscious, maybe
they know a good
cellular level,
wanton murder and destruction when they see it. I think they're just like in the wake of destruction.
I mean, like on a cellular, like genetic level, like they're drawn to them. I truly believe Space Marines are. I
don't think they're drawn to him specifically.
You think
like
to what maybe what he represents?
That's daddy. I don't think they do that. I think it's more just. I mean, he is just rage personified, embodied, right? And I think they're drawn to that more because I mean, if you think
so, he probably draws multiple war bands to him.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And worshippers of Khorne, because I mean, it's not all these guys that are in war bands, by this point, the majority of them probably weren't in the original Legion, because they've had, people brought in, the World Eaters, even in the Heresy, were built on.
How are they even adding to their, they've got to,
are they recruiting?
Get recruits? Like the Night Lords get recruits from certain ways. The Black Legion gets recruits from certain ways. How the heck I don't know if that's ever addressed.
Well, I mean, because
gene seed, indoctrination.
I mean, I guess so.
Yeah. How are they replenishing the ranks? That's a good question.
Yeah. Because even if you try to get recruits, you have to not kill them in a blind rage.
And also, who's calm enough to implant all this stuff on them?
Well, they mentioned, 9th and 10th edition Codex, they mention the apothecaries for the Legion and how important they are because they're necessary for implanting.
So there you go.
I mean, they mentioned them enough in the 9th edition book that when they announced the 10th, I was like, oh, we're gonna get like the normal guys, on the juggernauts,
right?
Because that was mentioned in the thing too, and we didn't get those. And I was like, and we're gonna get an apothecary kid, and we didn't get that either.
But
we did get a guy with a bloodthirster in him.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I mean, he's not great, but he's got a bloodthirster in him, and that's enough reason to take.
But a bloodthirster outside of him is probably better.
So what this all boils down to is the core organization for a World Eater is a warband. At this point, they've shattered as a legion. They've broken down into war bands. Usually they'll vary in size or whatever, but it usually takes somebody with a tremendous amount of strength and charisma and power to run one of these war bands for any length of time.
Well, and it's almost like orcs, I would say.
Yeah, to a degree,
where they're sort of drawn to slaughter and combat.
For different purpose.
Right.
Same result.
Right.
Arguably.
Good crumping.
So then in 9th edition World Eaters, they introduced the Gore Band, which sounds like a terrible metal band.
Again,
definitely death metal.
Just 80s metal. Yeah. It all works.
Which is like a recurring term for basically a flexible combat group.
Yes.
I mean, realistically, look, it's just a war band. They just in all but name. They're not permanent structures, but they're fluid, groups that go on kill campaigns or whatever. Yeah. But I don't know why they tried to really deviate into this, but because really it's just, when you think about World Eaters, think about them as just a fractured legion that's running around in war bands.
Yeah.
So as a result, as it is, the legion hierarchy, such as it is, you really don't have one, other than you have Angron, who's the demon primarch of the World Eaters. Brian, you've aptly explained his relationship with the rest of the World Eaters. So he's not really a ruler in a traditional sense.
No,
he's more of a figurehead guy that shows up and everybody gravitates towards him as they know what he represents, which is more slaughter. And then you have Chaos Lords or Lords Invocatus, which are usually the most brutal and successful warband leaders. And they may have commanded loyalty through various demonic pacts or whatnot. Exalted Champions and Dark Apostles, who serve as lieutenants or priests of Khorne, and they may do dark rites and bless the warriors before they go into combat. And then you have the Berserkers, who are like deadly, infantry guys, but you have the 8-bound. You want to talk a little bit about the 8-bound?
The 8-bound, and again, put on your 80s metal hat.
Okay, it's on.
So
it's on.
So you have...
That's a lot of neon.
Sorry.
Well, less neon. So you have...
Oh, not hair metal band. Hang on.
You can't just go possessed and have a demon in you. Mm-hmm. The 8-bound are called 8-bound because they have 8 bloodletters.
It's even more.
That they've battled internally.
What's the number of Khorne, Brian?
That'd be 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I remember seeing
formerly possessed by Khorne demons.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so they're possessed. That's great. And then it's like, no. they defeated 8 in this possession. And you're like, that's just excessive, but okay.
But I'm in.
But I'm also here for it.
Yeah, I'm done.
9 would have been too many,
No.
but 8 was just enough.
So 9, that's when you start doing the magic.
You know what's
fingers,
interesting
and
is
we're not doing
there is a loyal Space Marine chapter, the Exorcists, I believe,
Exorcists,
who
yes.
allow themselves to become possessed and then
Yes.
fight the possession.
Yeah.
So that they can be better prepared to fight.
Yeah.
Like, it's very interesting. But
They're
these guys did it 8
They're
times.
only one bounds though.
Those are single bound.
Yeah. That's just called bound.
Amateurs.
Yeah.
And then you have
Lightweights.
jackals.
Yes. Now the jackals are really fun. So I like how Thousand Suns, you get the Zangor, right? You get your like t-shirt save cultist things, right? You get Poxwalkers with the Death Guard. I don't think the Emperor's Children.
Not yet.
That might be in the next cycle.
Yeah.
Probably.
You didn't get any cultists. So
Go get
with,
some chaff.
with World Eaters, though, you don't get access to regular cultists at all. You just have jackals are of all of the sort of like occupants on their ships and things like that. These are, it's funny because we call them like, 6+ t-shirt save throwaway models.
Yeah.
But these guys are absolutely, these are like the most brutal of all the non-Space Marines that they have.
Yeah.
And they're hardwired with a tank filled with, combat drugs. And each one is given 8 drops of blood.
How many?
From that'd be 8 from a World Eater, right? So it's like they're just these just combat drug fueled maniacs.
Okay.
In the unit. And the one thing that was interesting,
But they're human essentially, right?
they're human. These are their cultists, right?
Okay, gotcha.
The one weird thing with that unit though is that you get one that's a big model that's on a 40 millimeter base, and it's like a Stardy side with a tiny head, called a Dishonored.
Okay.
And it has plugs on it, and I don't know if they're supposed to be, aspirants that just the process went sideways.
Oh, interesting.
Failed
or
to
what.
reject
And
an aspirant.
it isn't addressed. They just say, oh, and there's these big hulking Mongo guys that run around and smash things.
I bet you that's what they are. I bet you that's exactly what they are.
It seems like though, I don't know why they haven't just put that out there, or maybe it's in a section, but I mean, I've gone through a few times trying to figure out why those are there.
Yeah.
And then from there, you have the specialized unit that just came out, which was the Warmongers. These are jackals that got to watch and experience bloodletters in combat, and they're like, I want that. I'm in. Cut the legs off below the knees, and they get,
Give me the bionics.
We got stilts.
bionics. Yeah. And so they're sort of like a scouting, and they have like a cool reaction mechanic where when things move, they can move. And so it's fun.
It makes the army so fast.
Yeah.
Like every unit in that army is that kind of thing drives me crazy. Oh, if you shoot these guys, they move closer. Oh God.
Yes.
Okay. So there's not, as we just discussed, normally in this section, we'd be like, oh, here's the org structure of the, nope, that does not really exist. Again, think war bands.
Well, even like the normal support officers that you were talking about earlier that are in it's not a war band, it's a gore band. Like the things that would be chaplains, right? Or dark apostles. Like we don't have models for that in this.
Right.
So it's like, the command structure is just, here's your chief baddie. Here's a horde behind them.
Go for
They're
it.
going to go. Yeah.
Charge.
Go fight. Yeah.
So what have the World Eaters done that have driven events or influenced events in the 40K universe? And I'll start, and then let's kind of alternate here. But like we talked about the Siege of Terra, they were a major part of the Siege of Terra. They helped the Lionsgate spaceport fall. They were the first ones that took over the Eternity Wall and breached the walls of the Imperial Palace. And when we talk Imperial Palace, for those who aren't aware, I mean, like the Imperial Palace is basically the size of a continent. Like it's massive in scale. Right. So defending something that they do a good job in the Siege of Terra, like you feel tired for the defenders. Like you feel tired for how the battle's going because it's just that massive. And then, as I said, they breached the walls of the palace. They were right up at the front of that kind of thing and acted as like roving war bands through the ruins, like making it dangerous for anybody trying to move from point A to point B during the battle. Brian, we want to take a next shot here. This is a good one.
Oh, just because of the First War of Armageddon. So this is where we get Angron.
Yeah.
Big Red Daddy is back.
Yeah.
So leads an apocalyptic invasion with tens of thousands of world eaters.
Yeah.
Again, they're all sort of drawn to the big red ball of hate. Yeah, you're making me read this because
you don't have to read. Okay, so they were at the first war for Armageddon.
Yes.
Arendevsky Bowden wrote about this war in the book that covers his Grey Knight guy that he follows. Trying to remember the name of the book, but the Grey Knights basically are able to banish him. Like as a large group, they're able to fight and banish him. And then because of the demon incursion, the Inquisition was like, we're going to exterminate everybody on the planet who saw anything, which also leads to the Space Wolves getting involved and saying, no, we're not going to allow you to do this, which they still do it, but it creates a serious amount of enmity between Space Wolves and the Inquisition. The Arcs of Omen, which has been the series that kind of came out, and this, if I'm not mistaken, this was kind of when the model for Angron got released.
Yes.
During Arcs of Omen.
Yep.
He's resurrected again.
That's what made it so bad too.
Starts doing planetary genocide.
Because you're like, oh, this is the end times.
Yeah.
Right.
Series of books, and you're like, look, and I got a codex. It's gonna,
and it's gone. He unleashes the Tithe of Skulls doctrine, which is planetary scale campaigns to collect skulls for corn. And his presence destabilizes the Imperium Nihilus, drawing huge imperial resources over to contain him when they need to be used elsewhere. And then you have the kind of, what do they call it when it's like, oh, here's the object that everybody's trying to get. There's a term for it in writing, and I'm missing it right now, but you have Vastor's Gambit trying to get the key fragments for which is the whole Arcs of Omen plot line. Like he has to get like the MacGuffin. Yeah. That's what it's called. We don't even know what these things do at this point. The key fragments open the lock. What is that? I don't know.
He's trying to become the fifth Chaos God.
That's right. So he's involved in the whole Arcs of Omen thing.
Sorry, doesn't the Tithe of Skulls thing?
That sounds awesome.
But I mean, it's kind of like the March of Dimes, right? He's like, come on, guys.
Jesus, Brian. It's horrible. I want you to sit on that one for a minute. Think about that because that's horrible.
Okay.
He has spread the butcher's nails through and he creates within the 40K universe. I mean, this is again, like, how has he driven events and shaped things? Like it's kind of leaned into the whole psycho-technological horror, aspect of this. We have a couple armies that kind of do similar things in this regard, which is like maybe not technological horror, but like I think the Tyranids are really, like, when you really think about the Tyranids and you're like, there's just like these monsters out there that you can't reason with, you can't talk to, like they just like, they're just going to come and slaughter everybody and turn you into goo. The World Eaters kind of fill that role from a chaos perspective. It's like, you can't reason with these guys. Yeah. There's no talking to them. You have to figure out how to deal with them. Otherwise you're just going to be slaughtered.
That's where I've always struggled to read. I can read Horus Heresy novels because they read more like mythology, if that makes sense.
No, I get you.
Demigods and, it's in the past and great. It informs the present. I have always had a hard time with 40K reading 40K novels and it just not feeling like bolter porn.
Right.
And World Eaters, for me, I love the World Eaters. I haven't read that much for 40K stuff because they're more of a plot device than they are, there's a coherent strategy. And then the third, gore band
How much subtlety is in
It's
this?
not a warlord; it's a gore lord. You know, the gore lord declared that, like there isn't a lot of technical planning with it.
Well, I think that's a really good point, and one of the reasons I think they're more interesting during the heresy era as like a writing device is you're going through their thought process and their fall,
right?
And their and like when you're talking about Karn, like you're going through Karn's degeneration into this and how noble he was, and how far he fell, and
there's active tragedy there. Now that's gone.
And in 40K, there have been a couple Karn novels. There's been one in particular I remember, and I'm again forgetting the name of it, but he, as you said, he's almost a plot device. Like it's kind of following like other people involved in the story, and then their perception of, oh, here's Karn, and you may get some of his internal, but it's really just like the rage continued to build, and involve a lot. It's like there's not a lot to have a conversation with there. This is one of the things when Aaron Dembski Bowden first started writing Space Marines, and he wrote the fantastic Hell's Reach novel.
Oh yeah,
he was like these aren't humans. Like how do you write from their perspective? And he spent a lot of time thinking about that and talking about like how autistic people function and all that.
Right.
But there's something there. Like you can talk to a Black Templar and he can give you his. This is my philosophy. The philosophy of a world eater is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of.
Don't ask me about my philosophy.
Yeah, you aren't drinking a couple of beers on the porch.
No,
waxing philosophically about the meaning of life. Like it's yeah.
So
what is best in life? Blood, skulls.
So I mean, and you saw this in Siege of Rax again. Like once the World Eaters hit the field, it changes the way the battle is fought. Like all of a sudden, there's this great story in that where the World Eaters show up, the Krieg regiments that are fighting, like suddenly, like there's this retelling of an account where a World Eater basically like jumps up on top of a tank, rips the hatch open, pulls the guy out of the tank, and like rips his head off. And then you're like, and this is told from somebody who saw it. You're not going to get that perspective from the World Eater because he's in his berserk rage at that point. And
then I thought to myself, if I yank this out, I probably could reach in.
Yeah.
Shoulder deep. I should have
I should be able to rip this guy's head off.
Oh, I could just twist that off like all right, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. They inspired other cults in Demonkin. Obviously, they were the inspiration for the Khorne Demonkin book we talked about. Their symbols and aesthetics and rituals have all become kind of standard rallying points, much like the orcs yell, wah, blood for the blood god, skull for the skull throne is a seminal.
Synonymous.
What was that?
Synonymous with.
Yeah. It's even people who don't know 40K have heard that sometimes. And they're like, what is that all about?
But there's a YouTube channel that takes old bad 80s movies and the guy's just doing a narration over the whole thing of what's happening. And at the end, people send him things in to say, like, use your movie voice.
Yeah.
And the blood for the blood
read
god
this out.
Always in there.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Or it'll be like, they get him to say personal things, but have it record because he has that like movie announcer voice. Yeah.
Melissa, you have
that's
my
right.
heart.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah. He just gotta go back.
That was really good. The legends of the World Eaters, including Karn, the Betrayer, and Angron, are used in Imperial propaganda and cautionary tales. Everybody who's anybody in 40K, if you've been in this game for a little bit, you know who Karn the Betrayer is.
Yeah.
Like he's one of the most famous characters in the game.
He's that guy that was on the train.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's Karn.
That guy was on.
Everybody knows him.
Don't worry.
Was that the
Celestine's here?
Yeah, exactly.
I
fine.
did not. People really speak highly of this book, and I really wanted to like it, and it just felt so.
Yeah.
As you said, bolter porn, right?
Yeah.
And Brian, I'll tell you, I mean, as a side note, when you talk about 40K fiction, a lot of it is surface level
Yeah.
The stuff that Jody would absolutely hate, but there is some real good stuff out there too. If you have not read the classics like the Gaunt's Ghost stuff and I'm not even an IG, and Gaunt's Ghost is like, I put off reading it for a long time because I'm like, I want to read about Space Marines. Finally, I was like, I'm out of Space Marine stuff to read. This is back when you could actually read all the Black Library stuff, and then I'm fine, I'll read this. And I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I read this first? This is amazing. It's very good. Okay. So I think, they've undeniably put their stamp on 40K. They are representative. They are a chief representative of chaos. The Khorne Berserker is an iconic profile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And anybody who's ever been involved in 40K knows what this army represents.
Yes.
It's there's no confusion about it. Okay. Let's do real quick. Let's go through and kind of talk about our favorite detachment that's currently in the book. And we can talk briefly about it and why we like it. For me, I chose the Blood Tithe, and this is the mixture of Chaos Demons and like Berserkers and regular units. And again, I found in each of these Chaos Codexes, like this detachment, which is in, like each of the Chaos Codexes has a detachment where you're taking the general troops and then you're taking demons, and you can't take all the demons, but you can usually take one big one,
sure,
and then a smattering of other ones, up to I think half the points.
Yeah.
They're never particularly powerful, but my God, are they thematic? And for me, like that is the thing that I absolutely love. They get a detachment rule here that the demons are called Blood Legions. And anytime a Blood Legion or World Eater unit from your army destroys an enemy unit, you roll D6 on a 3-up, you gain a Blood Tithe point, as we just talked about at the start of your command phase. And you can spend one or more Blood Tithe point to activate some of the following abilities. For 2 Blood Tithe points, you can Enraged Abjuration, which causes units in your army, which are Blood Legions or World Eaters, so basically anybody in your army. Models from your army have the Feel No Pain 5+ rule, which is okay, but that's only against psychic attacks and mortal wounds. So it's kind of meh, but it's 2 points. Demonic Rage, melee weapons equipped by Blood Legions units from your army now have the Lance ability, which is pretty solid. Boon of Blood, which is 4 blood points. Blood Legions units from your army gain a 4+ invuln save, so now your demons go to a 4+ invuln. And then the Might of Khorne. For 5 blood points, your Blood Legions units from your army gain the Blessings of Khorne ability. So the interesting thing about the Blood Tithe points is it feels a little bit like if you've ever played Call of Duty, like the more things you kill, like the better advantages you get.
Win more.
So then you start winning more. So if you play this right, you can roll this into making your units more powerful and then help you progress through the game. Anyway, the main driver of this is not the rules for me. The main driver of this is the thematic elements of Khorne, Berserker forces alongside demons. Like this is the pinnacle for me of thematic. Yeah. So that's why I chose this.
Nice.
What about you, Josh?
Before we go into that, I'm going to throw the spotlight on Brian here real quick. And can you give us just a brief overview of, not a Codex overview, but a brief overview of Blessings of Khorne? And
that's a good,
yeah, because you mentioned that at the end. I'm going to mention it in mine. So why don't you walk us through it real quick, Brian?
So every turn, at the beginning of the turn, you roll 8d6, and there are different abilities that you can pick from. So some of them are any double will allow you to do this thing. Mm-hmm. And if you're rolling 8 dice, statistically, you're going to get at least 2 doubles, right? If you have doubles your doubles are 4 up, you have those different things. And basically what happens is you have those abilities until the beginning of the next turn. What's nice about those is that they allow you to do different things. So you are an instrument that plays one note really loud. You want to charge, right? They know you're going to charge You're not making a secret that you're going to charge, and you're not going to not charge. But this allows you to do different things. And so there are things where you can start getting sustained hits or these types of things, if you need more offense or if you need more.
I can give you a perfect example.
Oh, give me. You got the examples right in front of you.
So for example, you're talking about you roll these 8 dice and it's really, you're looking for doubles or in some cases triples.
Yeah.
Right.
And the higher the numbers of those doubles or triples, the
more
the potential power.
The more potential power. But the interesting thing about this is it's like double 3+. So even if you rolled like a double 5s, you could
go
choose the lower option if you wanted. Yeah. So that's really cool. But let me just give you double 5 pluses or triple 2 pluses. Your melee weapons equipped by models in this unit have lethal hits ability.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is actually, when you're rolling 8 dice, you're definitely getting some doubles in there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to. There's only 6 sides on a die. So, double 6s or triple 3+ each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack that targets an infantry unit. That attack has the devastating wounds ability.
Ooh. So that's pretty.
Now, it used to not have the infantry stipulation.
Yeah.
So you could have a unit of berserkers charge like an Imperial Knight.
Yeah.
And just bad things happen. So
Index had some defensive stuff built into, like you used to be able to get a 6-up feel no pain, which is no longer in there.
Yeah. You have to get that through other things now. But even like
but you can get lethal hits, you can get sustained hits, you can get devastating wounds. Mm-hmm. You can reroll charges, I believe, is off one of those.
Which tells you why this Might of Corn, the 5 blood tithe point thing, like you get to pick whichever one you want to use.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of, you'd have to kill 5 units to get that.
You get to pick 2, I believe.
Well, with that one, it's actually the blood tithe thing that you're rolling applies to the demon units also.
Right.
Is what that 5 one does.
Right.
But also too, I mean, there are ones that are slightly defensive. So like I think it's the double 3s where you get the sort of fight on death thing if you haven't attacked.
4 fight on death, right?
Yeah. And so
fight on death is so good
with
too.
berserkers with all those attacks or jackals or whoever.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's potent. Okay.
Nice. So it allows you to be a little strategic.
Okay. So there's your
with that
army-wide rule.
Yes. That is the army-wide rule, exactly. So I went with the Berserker Warband, which is
classic.
Gonna be the kind of the classic World Eaters represented on the table.
Yeah.
So that thing you want to do every turn where you like want to charge and get in combat? This makes that happen a little bit better. Surprise, surprise. So they have the Relentless Rage, which is +2 strength, +1 attack on the charge. Very similar to Blood Angels is what they want to do. They want to get in combat. They want to kill stuff. They have some very useful enhancements that will allow them to kill more. They can potentially reroll blessings if you're really fishing, like I really want sustained hits here, I want lethal hits here. They have some enhancements that let you do that. And then there's potential charge bonuses with rerolls. And these are all good things. They are actually pretty useful enhancements that will just make your characters a little bit more utilitarian in an army that doesn't have a lot of individual like standout characters because it's all just everybody wants to rush forward and kill everything. So the stratagems, I'll go over just real quick, is Blood Offering is basically you get to keep an objective that you were killed off of. So you can spend some CP and be like, nope, you didn't actually, I don't lose this objective even though you killed me. Hack and Slash, +1 AP on a unit that charge. So you get more AP on weapons on the charge. Frenzied Resilience, -1 damage in combat. So you can make your guys stick around quite a bit longer if you're taking, say, a damage 2 weapon going into berserkers and you're like, those are actually all damage 1. Now you're only killing half the guys you would have. Skulls for the Skull Throne, extra blessings of corn for killing a character or monster.
Nice.
Which you're already getting 2, so then
super thematic.
It'll like unlock a 3rd blessing of corn. And that one you just get to pick, I believe. I think that one costs 2 CP, but you just get to pick. Apoplectic Frenzy is advance and charge, which is super useful. You're already incredibly fast.
Oh my
So
God.
if you're incredibly fast, because you've got, berserkers are an 8-inch base movement.
I was going to ask, are they 7 or 8? I knew they were
They're 8,
faster than 6. Yeah.
Corn, what's that number?
Oh, of course. Why didn't I?
8.
Yeah. So they're moving 8 inches, then they're advancing, and then they're charging on top of that. But wait, then there's Berserker's Wrath. You get an automatic 8-inch blood surge. So if somebody shoots you, you just move 8 inches towards them, and then you can advance and charge your next turn. It's like a turn 2 charge from across
This
the
is
table.
the kind of thing I was talking about, where it's like, I shoot these guys, they move closer. Oh my God.
It escalates very quickly. So
Now, unless I'm mistaken, it can only happen once. Like they don't get shot again from another unit and then move another 8.
No,
they
it's
can only
once per
move the
turn.
once.
The blood surge
now
is once per
it
turn.
is once.
Yeah,
It did
it
not used to be.
Yeah.
But yes, now it is once.
So the trick is, and a smart opponent actually can shoot them, have you move them closer into other fire if you're not
Pulling
paying
into
attention.
rapid fire
Yeah,
range, too.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's ways to bait it for sure. So this is kind of your classic warband, and it just makes the thing that they do, takes it up from 8 to 11 because they want to do it even more. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good choice and very
That was
thematic.
actually pretty good.
Yeah,
that was a pretty good
Yeah,
joke.
come on.
So 2 things on this detachment. I didn't pick this one because I slacked and didn't start typing into the notes until last night. And I was like, Josh got it. Yeah.
That's the one.
I earned that loss. The second one is the ability to re-roll these, the blessings thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only are some of the abilities really powerful, like if you roll 666s and Angron's been destroyed, you can bring him back with how many wounds? 8.
Jeez.
So you can, he isn't a full profile thing, but getting to bring back a demon prince.
Demon Primarch.
Demon Prime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Even better.
Turns out it's pretty good.
Yeah. It turns out, you're going to have a good time.
All right. What'd you pick, Brian?
Well, by default, I picked this is the one that I think I want to make work because I have a lot of 8-bound. So this is the Yo Dog, I heard you like 8-bound detachment. It's called the Possessed Slaughter Band.
Yo War Dog, I heard you like 8-bound.
Gore band.
Yo Gore Dog.
Yo Gore Dog.
There you go. So basically what this does, this gives a little lighter version of the Blood Surge move to possessed units.
Okay, yeah.
To the 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound. Yeah. The enhancements they have are all things that juice up demon possessed units. Stratagems, just to kind of throw out there, and these are important when you're dealing with, 3 wound models.
That's the other thing. Like they have many more wounds than
they're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So demonic resistance is a fairly cheap one, and that's you're going to subtract one from the damage. This is like the one that you were talking about. It's huge. It's bigger for them than it is even for like berserkers and the other.
Yeah.
Demonic strength +1 damage. So you aren't getting the +2, but you're getting, exalted 8-bound at strength 9 are not terrible on the charge. You have these other things as well.
And with your chain fist with a anti-vehicle 3+ and +1 damage on that, like you're mowing through armor pretty quick.
Yeah. They don't have as many attacks though as
the Gorebound?
The exalted 8-bound don't have as many attacks as you think though.
I think they have 5 base, right?
It's 4.
Oh, I thought it was 5 for some reason.
Half of
or on the charge, don't they get a plus? Don't they get additional?
That's with
Berserker.
With the Berserker attachment.
So they only have 4.
Yeah. Okay. So they only have 4. So if you have
2 of them, how many attacks do you?
Well, they come in 3 to 6, right?
3 to 6.
So 12 to 24 attacks, but they're ridiculous. Like hitting on 3s, 2s, hitting on 3s.
Yeah.
Strength 9. And
with blessings, you'll get some other stuff.
Right.
Too,
again, it's infantry.
Yeah.
Skulls for a skull throw.
Immortal Fury is kind of an interesting one because they get fight on death, but it's not like on a 4-up. You just
get
fight
it
on death if you haven't done it. So if you have a unit that, that's a great one to pull in somebody else's turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last one was one that I had to read a few times because I was like, what are we doing with this? So rapid manifestation, you can deep strike enemies within 3 inches of enemy models. You can't charge, but if they shoot at you, you can make a Brazen Fury move,
which puts you in close combat range because Brazen Fury allows you to move into close combat.
So
you don't count as charging, but you are engaged.
So if you drop them down near something to contest an objective or just be, a threat, if they use Overwatch on them, you're like, okay, cool. Then you can.
Now I'm in you.
The
The interesting thing about that mechanic, like as I'm thinking about it, is you're right, Josh. Like you're not considered having charge, so you're not going to fight first that round because you're just engaged.
Right.
Well,
Does it count as ongoing combat though? Because if you're moving in on your opponent's turn, you still get to fight first.
But you haven't charged.
Doesn't matter.
I don't know. Well, I hope that's in an FAQ.
Oh,
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, because you would be you would choose the first non-charge.
Yep.
Right.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well, and if you don't, you can play the one where you fight on death anyway. So
that's my
you're
point.
Gonna eat chain fists regardless.
The best part about this is when you fight, don't kill something, die, and still fight on death. And
you're spending a couple CP, but you're getting some work done. I'm actually curious to see if this has been FAQ'd to a 6-inch deep strike, because I know they got rid of a lot of the 3-inch ones.
Yeah. I don't know that any FAQs affect. Well, maybe they didn't affect the.
I think that one it might have been across the board.
The latest one that came out.
Yeah, that might have been.
Thousand Suns were not impacted at all, and I feel like I'd have to go look.
The only downside, if that wasn't across the board FAQ, then you need to roll that 6 to get into combat, which is kind of a bummer. But
all right, let's do this. Let's pause here. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got a little bit more to talk about, and then we'll wrap up the show after that. But we'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Still going on with the Show Force World Eaters. And now we're going to launch into we've each picked one notable battle in the 41st millennium. And we'll talk a little bit about that battle, why we thought it was fairly representative of the World Eaters. I chose the Siege of the Ecclesiarchal Palace on Gore Swirl. And again, I feel like if you name your planet Gore Swirl, you are just begging for a World Eaters invasion. The World Eaters descend upon the shrine world of Gore Swirl, laying siege to the fortified ecclesiarchal palace. The defenders are largely consist of Sisters of Battle, Adeptus Sororitas, and they fought to the last in these in the blood-drenched defense of the ecclesiarchal palace. But despite heavy losses, the World Eaters ultimately raise the palace, and this becomes this tragic martyrdom story within the ecclesiarchy. So it's kind of and it becomes a source of pride for Khornite war bands in this case. So this is, I think this is a great kind of representation of I like a story where chaos wins, right? And again, I'll say again, if you name your planet Gore Swirl, which is what immediately drew me to this story, you're kind of asking for it.
In the 41st millennium, we do blame the victim when they name their city Gore Swirl.
Yeah.
Like you.
How was your planet dressed? It was dressed in Gore Swirl. And that's dressed in gore.
It's like a Sharknado.
Yeah, you're right. We do blame the victim in this case. This is, I mean, again, chaos wins in this case. It's a huge black eye to the ecclesiarchy and the Sisters of Battle, and it becomes, of course, they always spin it into like a martyrdom story.
Sure.
Where they're like, oh, look, we died doing this. Yeah, okay, cool. But what started that first sentence again? What happened?
Died.
Oh, right. Okay.
Praying with a chain axe in her forehead.
That's right. And I do like a story where chaos wins. So, so there you go. That was my choice.
Nice.
Josh, what did you pick?
So I didn't go with one notable battle, but I went with a whole series of kind of heinous acts. That's the word. The other side,
tomato.
Yeah. So I went with the Blood Crusades, and this is Khornate warbands, World Eater warbands, just going on Rumspringa here. Like they're going hog wild. They are out there murdering, killing. There is no tactical prowess here. There's no time for subtlety. They are not taking prisoners. They are not holding objectives. They are just carving a path, and anything in their way is going to be destroyed.
There is a specific I think it's in one of the RPGs that's talking about this blood crusade and how it's just like slaughtering its way across the sector.
They don't stop. They have no reason to hold any location, any territory. They're not looking to gain anything out of this other than murder.
I mean, even Tyranids are trying to.
Yeah, they're not trying to eat anybody,
right? Like these guys, just like, no, we just want to kill you.
Yeah. So this is something that triggers every once in a while. So warbands will just kind of like, they need to appease the nails or something like that, and they just go on a blood crusade. But then this has now evolved or devolved, depending how you look into it, into the Skull Harvest, which you mentioned earlier that Angron kind of started this. And this is basically a competition to collect the greatest trophies. So heroes, war machines, etc. I got a very like Predator vibe, but it's even less sporting. Like they don't care if you're unarmed or not. They're going after it, and they don't care if it's a kid's skull. They don't care if it's a Warhound Titan's like head. They are just going to collect trophies.
Yeah, that's not the greatest trophy though. Yeah. Like a kid's skull is not particularly the greatest trophy.
Yeah, but it's still a skull for
You know what? They don't ask how, they ask how many.
Yes.
Okay.
Fair.
Quality has a quantity. No, wait.
Quantity has a quality of its own.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. So, not one particular battle, but this is just kind of a World Eater's way of life that I thought was worth calling out.
It's interesting. It's like the World Eaters are kind of like a herpes. They just flare up every now and then. The galaxy's herpes.
Wow.
So Brian plays Dark Eldar and herpes. Huh.
And Emperor's Children.
You know, I was supposed to answer, why do you want to play this army?
Do you want herpes? Because this is how you get herpes.
This is how you get space herpes.
Hey, maybe my famous battle will make you want to play the World.
All right, let me hear yours.
Okay, again, I just don't see the World Eaters as fitting in with they're just a plot device as far as I'm concerned. So I always like the individual accounts. And there was one that was in the Codex that I read, and the first time that I read it, I was like, this is so ridiculous.
Okay. I think I'm going to like this. Go.
Okay. So it's a battle that takes place on the Imperator Titan, the Hand of Righteousness. So this is a berserker who is fighting his way through all the levels. He's like smashing Skitari's faces in.
I'm already picturing this like a 2D scroller.
Yeah.
Where he's making his way up levels.
And he's describing like the effects of the radiation on his skin, on his bare arm, because they got to go Justin style, at least one sleeve off, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking about how these people are, they're all slaves of the Emperor, and he remembers fighting alongside Dorn and then like shaking the yoke of the Emperor off. And he's just talking about how free he is while he's like clearly just a slave to the nails that are just driving. And he just keeps fighting, gets all the way to the head of this Titan, goes inside, slaughters everybody inside it. And then I don't know how this would even be physically possible, but just the sentiment is so 80s metal, cuts the head loose internally. And as the head is falling from this Titan down to the ground, he says, there's but one life left upon the Titan that must be taken, one that deserves to know the eternal peace that death brings. Mine. And then he screams, blood for the blood god.
Of course he does.
Skulls for the... It's like Slim Pickens at the end of, Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah, I was like, is he writing it? Totally.
I would like to posit.
But he does win
the Skull Harvest.
For the Emperor Titan head.
For Emperor Titan head.
He definitely wins on the quality scale.
There you go.
Correct?
Yes, not the quantity.
But it's just...
and his own head.
Yeah, I mean, that's too.
I just like the story because that's just such a common theme with
that is very cool.
Literature is like there's no cohesion. He's not talking about fighting with the other people and how, we need to tactically take out this Imperator Titan because it's preventing us from skulls, something nebulously, right? It's like this one guy who's just driven, screaming like he's going to go through, and then like he finally gets
he achieves apotheosis.
Well, apotheosis is just that the nails will stop screaming in his head, and you're just like, this is the most World Eater story I've ever written.
Did he short the nails out at the end? He's just like, oh. That's awesome.
So that's my battle.
All right, let's talk. We each pick Well, I said 2, but I only picked 1. We each picked 2 favorite models in the line for each of us. These could be plastics, resin models from what used to be called Forge World. You know, this is purely an aesthetic choice. Mm-hmm. And let's start with Brian.
Okay. When the line first came out, I loved everything because I love World Eaters. When I was painting them, though, the ones that I was surprised were Jackals.
Okay, why?
I love those models.
I love T-shirt save weirdos for Chaos.
Okay.
It's one of the few. I mean, you do get skin tones and things like that with the World Eaters, but it gets a little monotonous doing red brass with black.
I can imagine.
So with Jackals, you get, because you have so many of them, you have 10 to 20 in a unit, you're able to play around with skin tones a lot, but it's also just all the little details. Like they all have different shaped masks on and things like that, and headgear and all of that. And they're really well done. I mean, they look like they aren't.
The musculature on them is really good.
And it's more realistic than, it isn't like hero scale, roided out muscle. Like they look like UFC fighters.
They look like actors in a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're super cut.
Yeah.
They look like Bane.
Let me ask you a question about this kit since you put it together. Like how much variation can you do on the faces? So like if I had 2 kits of these things, do I have 2 guys that look identical? Or is there a little bit of variety I can give them?
There's variety. So there are extra heads that you can choose, but you can also, it doesn't take very much work to make some of the other heads that are meant for other poses work.
Like fit in. Yeah. Okay.
And even like with the chain axes and chain swords, a lot of them are sort of joined at the wrist. And so you can give, a guy 2 chain axes or 2 chain swords or 1 each.
They are pretty cool looking.
There's a decent amount of mixing up.
Yeah.
And so, they weirdly were my first choice.
I find that on the table, like when I'm building models, I try to give each one its own little personality thing. Though occasionally, you have them that are identical poses. But I find that on the table when you're playing, you don't notice. Like
you don't notice at all. But while you're painting them, though, it's like you get a unit of 10. You're like, okay, I'm going to paint a batch of 3 with dark skin, 3 with super light.
That's true. You can just change the tones, which gives a whole huge difference.
It helps to break it up a lot.
I can see that. What else did you pick?
For the second one, I went with the Khitan Ravager. So this is the corn mower with legs that you were talking about.
Oh, yeah, sweet.
Yeah. So it's on like a big night-size base.
That name does not fit at all.
The Khitan Ravager?
Yeah. Oh, really?
Khitan Ravager. I don't know. I think it fits.
I like it.
What would you have named it?
Skullblood dude, bro.
Gore.
Leg.
Gore.
Mowerless leg.
Gore leg.
Gore leg. Wow.
No, it's
Gore puppy kicker.
Yeah, I love that kit because I remember when the corn mower came out.
It is really good.
And the corn mower, I was like, what?
What is
It's like the kit that nobody asked for.
Yeah.
And it won't go away.
But there are people out there that love it.
Absolutely.
And more power to them. Like, honestly, like I'm glad they love it, but man, every time I see that one, I get filled with rage.
Yeah. But when this kit came out, you were just like, oh my God, yes, they put legs on it.
Yeah.
And it's perfect.
The legs are resin, correct? Like parts of the kit are resin.
Yes.
They must be because it was a Forge.
Yeah, the torso is plastic.
Yeah.
Arms are plastic.
Pieces of it.
But and the head is also plastic. But you had resin legs with it, and then like
it's pretty sick.
Pieces of flare and everything. It's just a cool model. It's in Legends now, but I mean, in Heresy there actually was a Dark Mechanicum list that was put out where you can use those.
Oh, wow.
The old blood
cool.
impalers and things.
Oh,
like
that's
that.
cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, what'd you pick, Josh?
I went with the classic Berserker. And by classic, I mean the new version of the Berserkers, not the classic.
Such an improved model.
Yeah.
They are fantastic models. Like the dynamics of the poses there, the options that you get with helmetless guys, with kind of their Bane face grills in there, butcher's nails represented in there, weapon options, just an amazing kit for such an iconic unit. It's a really nice evolution for the modernization of this, and it had to be called out.
When that kit first came out, I remember people complaining that they didn't think it looked unique enough. And
I don't see what they're seeing.
I don't know. Like Emperor's Children, stylistically, they look really different because they're sort of graceful and some of the poses, have arrogance and all this sort of stuff. As they should. But when you look at the World Eaters ones, you have design cues that take back to all the Horus Heresy Army stuff. And to the point that every Berserker kit that I have used almost every spare bit that's left over on I use the kit with like a Mark III backpack and like printed, gladiator weapons for like the Rampager units, because the old I like the old Rampager models, but just scale wise, they don't hold up for Horus Heresy. And so if you play both armies, you are going to use every bit that comes in those kits, because there's so many great kits that just cross straight over.
What I would say about this kit is it's so much more dynamic than it used to be.
Absolutely.
The poses the guys are in, just like the level of detail that GW can achieve on plastic now just is light years ahead of the old kit.
Chaos was my first army back in 2nd edition, and I had the plastic berserkers that were out back then, and they were monopose, static, and they were still awesome back then. So now, like, seeing what we've got here, these are just fantastic. It's such a nice evolution.
But really even the plastics that came after that in 3rd, those, I mean, they held up pretty decently.
Yeah.
But these are that was a beautiful choice.
And second choice for me was the Jackals, just because I love them so much for all the reasons that Brian has called out. I haven't painted them personally. I've definitely oogled Brian's Jackals.
Excuse me?
Oogled my Wow.
They're gorgeous models. I love the glass cannon nature of them.
Yeah.
And they kind of exude this mortal, just, I don't know, wanton slaughter. But they look fragile and absolutely deadly, and you don't want to meet these guys anywhere. Yeah. The fanaticism like transfers over. I love the mask was the kind of face masks that tie into the Berserker lines also. Yeah. Like, it's just a really nice kind of design cue that carries throughout the range. So,
I asked Brian when he brought him, I said, why? And then I went and took a look at the pictures while you were talking, and I was like, oh, I see why.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
As I look at it a little more closely, I was like, oh yeah, these are really, really characterful.
I've been trying to find a way to get a kit of this and just, integrate it into like Hive Scum for Necromunda. Like, I'm not going to start a World Eater army because of it. Yeah. But I love those models and would love to find a home for Jackals somewhere in games.
Very cool. I only picked one. I picked Angron. I only need one.
He comes back. He counts as 2.
Yeah.
This is true.
There has been some criticism about this model that he's like hunched over and not, people don't like the pose. I couldn't disagree more. I find him to look like he is just entering combat. He looks brutal. The weapons on him look good. I love the way the wings are shaped on him. I like his pose. I think he looks ominous and domineering and everything that you would expect from Angron. I remember seeing this model get released, and the only thing that kept me from going, wow, that is like one of the coolest models GW has released, was that it was kind of expected to me that it would look cool, right? Whereas like when the Lion got released in plastic, I was blown away. Like, I was not expecting what I saw. And I thought, oh my gosh, this model really stunned me. When I saw this guy, I was like, yeah, that's Angron. Like, that's not a derogatory statement. It's like, yeah, that's what I expected he would look like. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Well done.
He looks a lot like a Bloodthirster. So there's not, there are a lot of really unique cues that Brian called out there, but like the silhouette's kind of there.
I think his pose is cooler than the Bloodthirster pose, to be honest.
I would say the Bloodthirster has more presence in its pose, especially with like the wings up and like, but it's more kind of almost dancing. It's got a little bit more fluid moment to it. Like, it's pirouetting, but Angron is just a beefsteak, and like he's there to
it's like the
do harm.
In Age of Sigmar, the Oryx, they have that one model that is the Auric riding the like dragon thing.
Yeah.
I hate cabbage.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I love that model.
Oh yeah.
And that model almost made me get into that army. That model alone.
Same.
Like I have the same sense from this model. It's like packaged badassness.
But it's also, of the 4 demon Primarchs,
Yeah.
he is the most animalistic.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying, where like the other,
Very true.
Where Tyrion still has his personality. Magnus still has his personality. Fulgrim still has his personality. Angron is just
Rage.
It's just rage. And he looks like a hulking animal.
So you go, yeah, that's Angron.
Yeah, nailed it.
I think it's a great model. I love it.
And it's really fun to paint.
And when I see it on the table, I'm like, oh.
Well, or you can shoot it off.
I wouldn't worry about him.
Oh yeah? Is that how it works?
Well, Brian,
You know what? We'll gather.
Oath of the Moment lasted a couple seconds.
Angron showed up, failed the charge with a reroll, and got obliterated.
That's the worst.
That was
1 Land Raider. 1.
Took him out.
Yeah, Heavy Bolters finished him off.
Brian, what are you doing?
I don't know.
I'm picking another model. Hang on. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about playing with the army. In this case, units of the Codex. So these would be one unit you would pick. And I'm going to let Brian go first because he chose the most obvious one, which
Yes.
I 100% agree with. The unit you would pick if you were making this army, you're like, well, this has to be in my army. Brian, what is that unit?
So if you aren't starting out with 2 10-man units of Berserkers, I don't know what you're even doing.
You're doing the wrong thing.
Yeah. In fact, the only reason why I don't have a 20-man unit is that it wasn't available as an option previously.
Is it now?
It is now.
Do they come in base 10 or are
Base
they
10. There's no 5.
So there's no 5s.
Yeah.
Because the 1,000 Suns, you could take a 5 rubric
Yeah.
squad
Yeah.
guy, but I found,
but they're
especially
sparse.
But I've also found, especially pairing them with that exalted soldier, like 10 is the answer because now they're 4 up invul and 10 shooting AP -2 bolters. So
yeah. So for me, it's just everything about them is just, they are world eaters.
Yeah.
Like it's just the silhouette, the way they play.
Defined by the fact that they are berserkers.
They're fun to paint. I mean, the 30th is just as fun to paint as the 1st. You know,
Fun to paint, fun to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent choice. Excellent choice. Josh?
Yeah, I went with the Demon Prince.
The good old Demon Prince.
And the World Eater Demon Prince does things a little bit differently. Like he doesn't get the impact hits that your kind of standard Chaos Legion book does, but he gets some.
Nor does my Demon Prince in the 1,000 Suns Codex.
Yeah, so they are all different.
They're all unique,
which is pretty cool. This guy is, surprise, surprise, a little bit more combat oriented, and especially with the Berserker Warband that I mentioned, like one of the enhancements you can give him gives him extra attacks, extra damage. So he's hitting with something like 10 attacks, damage 4. And he has some cool kind of aura abilities that reduce CP costs for units around him. He gets lone operative if he's near infantry units, so he can protect him by kind of babysitting him, or he's babysitting the berserkers as they're all advancing up very quickly, by the way. And then he can, drop his, you get to advance and charge for free this turn because I'm going to make that cheap for you. He gets a once per battle round CP reduction. So you can just really use him as a utility while he's being protected. And then he gets into combat and he's a lawnmower that doesn't look dumb.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
For me, I decided to go with the Exalted 8-pound. And you've heard me bring him up a couple times in this episode. And the thing was, I probably think the thing that's sticking with me on them is that I learned about these guys when I was traveling down to Southern California with Tom. And then watching him play during that trip to Cheyenne's, these things just laid out so much damage. Like, I kind of wondered if they weren't a little bit glass cannon-y because as we were discussing, it's like, well, you got to get them into combat, and if you're running across the table, even if there's tons of cover, it's like, these are going to be the things people are shooting at to get rid of. To Brian's point, you got to give people lots of bad choices to make, but and I know it would be super expensive, but sticking them in a Land Raider and just shunting them across the table in a Land Raider might be an option. But regardless, like once these guys are in close combat, and I noted there was only 3 per unit here, but we looked it up. It's 3 to 6.
Yeah, 3 to 6.
6 of these guys. I'm telling you, with the benefits you could get, like I think Tom was getting 5 attacks each on these guys instead of the 4 for the detachment he was using, and like they were just brutal. And I think he had multiple units of them, by the way. So, pretty awesome unit, and they look awesome on the table.
Yeah,
like they're huge. They really stand out.
Yeah,
they don't get Terminators, right?
They have Terminators.
Do they? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
They don't have bespoke models.
They don't have
for the
bespoke
Terminators
models
yet,
for the
but
Terminators.
Hopefully they come.
Yeah, that's why I haven't converted them up, because I'm just like, I was hoping with this release that they would have.
Eventually,
They'll have Red Butchers at some point.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah.
But
I'm sad that my Lord Zufur is not big enough anymore because he's a little bit smaller now.
My Tybros is a little baby Terminator. He's
gotta
supposed to be one of the
stick him on a
biggest Marines
heroic
there
rock.
is.
yeah, get a little tactical rock. He'll be fine.
That's right.
Little booster seat.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about Black Library books around this. There've been several. You mentioned one, Karn, Eater of Worlds by Anthony Reynolds, and I have not read this, so I'm picking it up right after this because I'd really like to check that out. Angron, the Red Angel by David Geimer, Renegades of the Long War, which contains Karn, Eater of Worlds, so you can get it's like 3 book. One of those books has 3 of them, so you can also buy that one separately. The Siege of Terra, Echoes of Eternity by Aaron Dembski Bowden. To be fair, they're featured in many of the Siege of Terra books, but they really kind of shine in this particular book. And Aaron does a really good job of writing them.
Oh, yeah.
Angron, Slave to Nuceria by Ian St. Martin, which is a heresy book as well. The Emperor's Gift. That was the book I was trying to think of.
Okay.
That's the Aaron Dembski Bowden book about the Grey Knights, where they go and deal with Angron down on Armageddon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is coming out as a what do you call it? Crusade thing. I'm very curious to see how they deal with that. Betrayer.
Classic.
Good one. Right?
Yeah.
That if you're gonna read one book, I would say that's the one.
And the Butcher's Nails. As I look here, Aaron's name is next to a bunch of these.
It's almost like he knows how to write.
It's almost like he knows how to write.
It's compelling.
World Eaters.
He has rage in him.
Yeah. And then, there's a few supporting supplements around this that are out still. The Arcs of Omen with the Angron in it. Trader's Hate, which is 7th edition, featured new formations and rules for Khorne Demonkin. They're out of
Rules are out of date.
Yeah, the rules are out of date now, but there's a little bit of kind of World Eater style lore in there. Vigilus Ablaze from 8th edition. World Eater warbands appear as part of Abaddon's Black Legion invasion, with mentions in narrative and match play options in there that you can still pull into other stuff. There's a bunch of units that have now been moved into Legends units. The Hellblade and Hell Talon you can still use. Uraka the War Fiend. Okay, so some of these they may not have Legends units or Legends rules associated with them, but they have. You can use them as alternative things. So, for example, Uraka the War Fiend, he can count as a Demon Prince of Khorne with a Khorne keyword. A Heretic Astartes Demon Prince with a Khorne keyword, or a World Eater's Demon Prince.
Yeah.
And that model is sick. That's the one I have. Actually, I love that model. Yeah, that's that guy there. Zax is just awesome. Zuflor the Impaler, we just talked about him as well.
Yeah, that was a cool model also.
And the Chitin Ravager.
Of course.
The Chitin Ravager. Okay. So, Brian, let's hear from you, because you've kind of embraced the World Eaters the most. Why is this army fun? Like, if you had to sum it up, why is it fun, and what makes it unique for you that this is the thing that attracted you, right? Like, there's things that attract me to Thousand Suns. There's things that attract me to Black Legion. What is it about this army that you were like, this is my bag? And he touched on your story a little bit.
So aside from background and those types of things, Josh, I think you were one of the people that pointed out to me, and I hadn't even thought of it. He was like, you have 2 speeds, Berserker or Dark Eldar.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, like Dark Eldar probably speak a little more to, so like I do martial arts, right?
Yeah.
And the martial arts that I've done, Aikido is a reactive defensive thing.
Okay.
Hapkido has more offense in it, but you're relying on their aggression, and you're a counter puncher essentially, or a counter thrower. That's more of my nature. World Eaters though are just a chance to just
go against the grain.
You're putting you're putting on a completely different hat, and you get to be really aggressive and not in a sneaky, cagey sort of setup move sorts of way. It's just, you get to just go for it. And it's not as mindless as it sounds though, because again, you're trying to make sure that you're setting up a series of bad decisions that they're having to react to. They're just, you're in their face the entire time. And also it's an army that likes to live in the combat phase, right? In the fight phase. And it's swingy, it's risky, but when it goes right, it's fun.
It's interesting you say it's not as mindless as it sounds. I mean, like a lot of people could ascribe that same mindlessness to orcs, but yes, orcs are running forward and attacking you, but there's some decisions you got to make. You got to make people make bad decisions.
It's not subtle, but it's tactical.
You got to decide where you're going to wah and when you're going to get the most out of your wah. Like it's the same thing here. Like you have to decide when you're going to unleash, your blood tide points. If that's the route you're going, you got to make those decisions at the right time to get the maximum effectiveness out of the army.
So yeah, it's a gameplay thing. I love the way they look. I like the backstory. As a person with really bad ADHD, when I'm not medicated, I can relate to the nails thing. Like that is me, and like me off of methylphenidate in a staff meeting. The inside of my head is just screaming, and it's physically having to hold myself in the seat. So it's just it's the total package for me. Fun to play. Love the background. They're the best.
I played. So I'll go next. I played. Like I said, I had before it was an army, I had a World Eaters army for Warhammer 40K. I mixed in a little bit of demons, blah, blah, blah. 5th edition Codex. Absolutely enjoyed playing it for what it was. And while I played it, it was fast. It was hard hitting at the time. It was swingy as well, based on, giving a guy a demon weapon, like Lord, a demon weapon, and seeing what happened from there. There was a mentality you had to take where it was like, whatever happens, happens.
Yes.
Like I'm in it and I'm going to lose a bunch of guys, but let's see what happens. And there were 2 games I distinctly remember playing where this theme really worked out, and one I feel almost bad about. Aaron was playing his Necrons. This is old Necrons when they would phase out.
Yeah.
And I was playing Berserker in my World Eaters army. And we were doing this mission where I was driving a column of tanks across the table, and he was attacking from both sides. And I tabled him in the first round because it was like Berserkers dropped out of, like, I think I used to run 2 Land Raiders, if not 3.
Okay.
Berserkers dropped out of those Land Raiders, assaulted into his, like, multi-assaulted his units.
Yeah. And
just caused him to phase out. And we were like, well, this wasn't any fun. let's do something else. And we like reset again.
Sure.
Yeah. And then, the other game I played was I brought that army down to Southern California to a broadside bash. And I've talked about this because I played against a Tyranid player that was doing the thing where he had the 3 big Tyranids that were spawning lots of.
Oh, yeah.
And you had like all these psychic powers, and he really showed me how that list worked. And it was really fascinating.
Yeah. I
brought this Chaos Space Marine Berserker list, there was all World Eaters. Yeah. And I said, I'm not going to win anything here. I know I'm not going to win. Like this is where I famously ran into somebody. I'm like, why do you have Tau and Necrons together? He's like, well, I needed some long range shooting. And I'm like, okay, we're playing in the wrong event. I'm in the wrong event.
Yeah.
So I kind of threw caution to the wind. I was just like, whatever. I'm just charging everybody and attacking. But playing that Tyranid army, I got mired down in lots and lots of Tyranids, but I slaughtered lots of Tyranids. I lost the game, but it was so much fun because I got to kill
so many skulls.
I just waded through these Tyranids until I got to the big creatures and then started bringing them down.
Right.
It was super fun. And it was just like, there was a certain mentality I had to take where I was just like, I'm throwing caution in the wind and going for it, which is exactly what they're doing, although more painfully than I do.
Yeah.
So that's what I loved about that.
Wasn't that was a line in Betrayer, right? It was something about not having a defense against a warrior who isn't afraid to die.
You would know.
Every warrior wants to live.
Yeah.
It was the
once you're removed from that, and I find that in playing the game too. Once you're not afraid of losing,
no fear of death.
Yeah. Okay,
that's
right. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. So I would say, if Khorne is your thing for Chaos Gods, like this is definitely the army for you. Especially now that you get to pull in Chaos Demons, they don't have their own kind of demons thing going on. I mean, they do, but they're not going to get a Codex this go around. Thematically, it's so freaking awesome. It's so awesome. Yeah. What about you?
Nice. Yeah. I would say they are a glass hammer army. Like they hit really hard, but for a Marine army, they're fragile. Part of that's like Jackals or t-shirt saves. New Jackals, gore something. What are Goremongers? That's the one. Yeah. Also very fragile, but like big units of fragile guys, but they hit hard. They have some cool movement. Like I think they infiltrate and they bring some cool utility to the army. Everything hits really hard. I think assault armies are an absolute blast to play. You will find yourself having some lopsided games from time to time in your favor or not in your favor, but I think they're always fun games to have. Like unless you just get shot off the table before you do anything, and then like that's not going to be every game though. So that'll happen sometimes. They're straightforward with units, abilities, and stratagems, but again, they're not subtle, but they are tactical. They are strategic. But they have the one thing they want to do, and they do that very well. So have fun doing that. It's a good variety of units available. You got tanks, you've got demons, you've got demon engines supporting that. You've got all the possessed flavors in there, plus berserkers and jackals and everything like that. And I think that's just a really cool foundation for an army. One thing that I really, really like is that all of the available alternate paint schemes. I'm reflecting back on the White Dwarf then and now.
Yeah.
And there was some really cool like brass paint schemes, some really cool white paint schemes.
Yeah.
There's the Heresy paint scheme that you can go like there's a lot of variety. You don't just have to go black, red, brass. Like there's a lot more options out there.
They're all war bands. That's how they're so disparate. You can choose what you want.
Yeah. So there's you can bring a lot of personal touch to that.
And if ever there was an army where you want to do blood splatter on it, like this is the army.
Sharkadons.
This is the army. If I had to pick a second model, I'm going to jump back. It would be that Lord Invocatus.
Yeah.
He's right. It's basically a berserker riding a
Juggernaut.
Yeah. Like that's freaking awesome. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I had to jump back to that.
Well, and also it just like jumping over the battlefield on a trail of fire.
That's amazing.
If you guys know Metalocalypse,
Yep.
Every time I see that model, I think of Thunder Horse.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both summed it up super well. And Brian, like, I'm so glad that you finally got your army to play. You know?
Oh God, yes.
Now we got to get you to play some games. We got the summer.
This is true.
It's no teacher summer for you. So
all right, my kids are in camp next week.
Okay, something's going on next week. Oh no, I don't think I have anything going on next week. We can meet at Skies.
If you like some 8-bound models,
we could meet at Skies, dude.
I think we could.
Oh, let's do it. All right, we'll figure it out. And I'm happy to take as long as we need to get through the rules and stuff. Like I'm not pushing you to hurry. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, and Brian, first of all, I know it's running late. It's getting late. You guys got to drive back, but I really appreciate you guys coming and recording in person.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is a blast.
Absolutely.
It's been too long.
It's always so much more fun than doing
God,
remotely.
yes.
Also makes editing a bit easier.
Oh, yeah.
So I do appreciate it, and it's been so good to see you. I haven't seen you in so long, man, and
Yeah.
you know we do miss you around here. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So seriously, let's set up a game. I think I have availability next week. So cool. Let's see. It is the end of the Hobby Progress Challenge this month. We may get one more show out before the end of the month. I don't know the situation. It all depends on Josh's work schedule. But I'm just glad he's working. Finally, stop lazing around.
Just owning a company, running a business, working for
Whatever. No, I'm super excited for you. It is, as I said, the final month, the Hobby Progress Challenge. Shell will be tabulating everything. At the end of the month, you'll have maybe a couple days of cushion there, but get your stuff in so that we can then pick the winners of all these fabulous prizes. Yeah. Again, we have a KR backpack 2 with custom foam for you. You get to pick from KR. We got a bunch of stuff from Army Painter. We got a bunch of stuff from Herrick Games. We got brushes, dry brushes from
Artis Opus.
Artis Opus. Yeah, I mean, really appreciate every company there that dialed in and helped us out there for the prize support. And we'll be looking to hit them all up again for next year. But in the meantime, make sure you get that done. We have, if you leave us reviews on whatever your podcast app of choice is, we really do appreciate it, whether it's a star rating or a review. We really do listen to those.
The word.
And we also, you can send us feedback at josh@theindependentcharacters.com or carl@theindependentcharacters.com. No A in independent. And did I ever tell you? I've mentioned this on the show before, but somebody registered independent.
Eric.
Was it Eric?
Yeah, my co-host.
I didn't know who it was.
Oh, it was Eric. Yeah,
that was amazing.
Yeah,
it's the best. Love it. So yeah, leave us reviews. We have a Facebook group. We have a Discord. Discord's awesome.
Yeah.
It's super.
Yeah, it's happening. It's where it's
super enjoyable to hang out and chat in there. And then also, if you would check out our new the sector blog on the independentcharacters.com website. That will be, you will begin to see that get more and more populated with stories of battles in the Corona sector. So yeah, we hope you enjoy that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And likely we release additional audio to our Patreon discussing each of those battles in depth. So probably a little lengthy for a regular show, but it's bonus content that will be on the Patreon. So yeah, guys, got anything else to add?
No?
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
You just want to get out of here?
I'm tired.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm
Me
tired.
too. Me too. Well, listen, it's a holiday tomorrow. So until next time, this is Carl.
This is Josh.
This is Brian.
We're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where I follow the 8-bound path.
And where skull blood.
And it's always our turn.
That's right. All right, we will see you next time. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.